Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if after 6 years training in a temple, Naruto decides to return in order to become a ninja. Part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. Sarutobi Hiruzen sighed with relief as he slipped off the robes of the Hokage after closing the door of his home behind him. He didn't know if it was old age or regret, but the damn hat weighed heavier on his head every day. He only took it back in the first place to keep Danzo from claiming it. However noble and patriotic his former teammates' intentions, the professor shuddered at the thought of what the man would have done in the aftermath of the Kyuubi attack. Martial law to stabilize the chaos, conscription and regimented training to recoup losses, and gods only knew what kind of statement to show the world that Konoha was still the best. In Danzo's mind, peace meant every possible opponent had been eliminated. The Sarutobi elder would endure any number of aches and pains from being forced out of retirement before he allowed his mentor's vision to be so perverted. Carpal tunnel from signing paperwork was a cheap price to keep Konoha a beacon of peace rather than an omen of war. But still, age was a harsh mistress. Every day the memory of his prime seemed dimmer and the frailty of his senescence darker. While he hoped to see his great-grandchildren before he departed, it was foolish to assume the next course without at least planning for the worst. Hiruzen considered his options as he cooked dinner, still feeling the small ache as he set the table one short. His wife was hardly the most significant casualty from that night 12 years ago, but it was the one that cut him deepest. But he didn't mope, she'd bang his head with a frying pan if he did. The third Hokage turned his thoughts from the past to the future. Shikaku would be perfect for the job, except he lacked the weight of either notoriety or political measure. It wasn't enough for the daimyo for a Hokage to be skilled, they had to be famous as well. Jiraiya just might be able to settle down and do the work, but it would come at the cost of most or all of his spy network. The crippled intelligence apparatus was the last thing a new military leader needed. Tsunade had the chops, but her grief had driven her down the path of self-destruction. A bet on the legendary sucker seemed poor at best. And there was really only one other candidate that sprung to mind at present, but he had his own issues. Someone knocked on the door, in the special sequence Hiruzen used for these kinds of dinner meetings. "Speak of the devil," the old ninja muttered, mustering a smile as he opened the door. "Good evening, Hokage-sama," Hada Kakashi greeted. "Kakashi, my boy, you know how I feel about that name in my house," Hiruzen chided. The breath portion of the masked man's face that wasn't covered reddened. "Sorry, Sarutobi-san. No matter. I made ramen tonight. I hope you're hungry." These meals with his underlings had been Bawako's brilliant idea. No matter how trusted or skilled the counter-surveillance squad, the fact remained that the Hokage Tower was the target of spies both foreign and domestic. And it was always a good idea to foster good relations with those entrusted with high-stress covert assignments. So every now and then, Hiruzen would get an update on certain long-term missions after sharing a meal. This particular dinner with Kakashi had been a regular affair for years now. Hiruzen knew almost immediately that there had been a breakthrough. Kakashi had a nervous energy all but bursting out of him. It was subtle to a layman but unmistakable for a ninja. He ate his portion in one flash of speed, rather than his usual pretense of sneaking bites here and there. He responded to Hiruzen's attempts at small talk with brief conclusive statements, shooting down any conversation. When the senior spent half a minute chazzing one noodle with his chopsticks, the haddock actually fidgeted. Draining his bowl of broth, the aged veteran set it aside. "Out with it, Kakashi. What progress has been made?" The Cyclops' eye glowed with triumph. "I found him, sir. I finally found him." Hiruzen's breath caught. He hardly dared to believe. After years of uncertainty, at last an answer. The answer to his greatest failure. Oh, Naruto. The day of his successor's son's 6th birthday, Hiruzen had gone down to the orphanage to visit. To his horror, the young Uzumaki was nowhere to be found. Fear quickly turned to outrage when the staff's lies fell apart to reveal the boy had been kicked out weeks ago, rather than running away. To add insult to injury, the Anbu assigned to watch Naruto had abandoned his post that day and had covered up the disappearance in a desperate bid to find the boy before the Hokage found out. A perfect comedy of errors, leaving Hiruzen with a boy he loved as dearly as his blood grandson missing, let alone the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi or the son of the Yellow Flash. The civilians were kept ignorant, the general forces told Naruto had been moved to a secure location and the Anbu sent on an exhaustive manhunt. But with every day, the search seemed more fruitless. Uzumaki Naruto was nowhere to be found in the village. The investigation proved that he'd lived on the streets for a few days and then he seemed to have vanished without a trace. The third almost hoped he'd been snatched up by Danzo and his route he wasn't supposed to have. At least then he would be nearby. But the cripple had approached Hiruzen to lambast him for his incompetence and that of his ninja in managing to misplace one of Konoha's greatest military assets, and the Sarutobi knew the man well enough to tell it had been genuine frustration rather than a ruse. Besides, while his forces might not be able to track down Root's base, they had picked up that Danzo had been conducting his own search for Naruto. Kakashi had led the investigation from the start and maintained his zeal long after Hiruzen was forced to reassign the bulk of the task force. The Hokage knew from both compulsory psych evaluations and his own conversations with the young prodigy that Haddock felt personally responsible for Naruto's disappearance. He felt he should have adopted the boy straight off, taken in his mentor and father figure's son, and given him a home. Instead, Kakashi had convinced himself he was too young, too busy for the responsibility of a newborn. He had dealt with the grief of his sensei's loss by throwing himself into his Anbu duties, trusting in the Hokagen village to take care of the boy that could have been his brother. A trust that had been shattered by petty cruelty of the masses, the selfish silence of a peer, and the foolish lack of oversight of an old man. The copy ninja had been relentless over the 6 years of his search. He checked every nook and cranny of the village, pored over every record from the time period, followed up the faintest lead. His obsession had unearthed a troubling number of spies in its course, but nothing on Naruto. Hiruzen knew for a fact that Kakashi had independently infiltrated every other hidden village between missions, looking for a trace of a clue as to Naruto's whereabouts. The old genius would ordinarily scold such risky behavior, except Kakashi was far too good to get caught and implicate the village. The last Haddock had moved heaven and earth to find out what happened to Uzumaki Naruto. And now, it seemed he finally had. "Where is he?" asked a Hokage. He didn't expect bad news, Kakashi seemed far too cheerful for that. Still, he hardly knew what to expect. Possibility after possibility had been ruled out, what would prove to be the truth after all the wondering? Ashi took a breath, and Hiruzen remembered that this was a moment for him too. For as long as the Hokage had been waiting to hear the answer, Kakashi had been waiting to give it. These with the order of the Horned One. Hiruzen sat back in his seat. He closed his eyes, taking a moment to process that information. It wasn't the most outlandish answer he'd been expecting, but it still came as a surprise. But then, the Order were well known for their ability to surprise people. No one knew how old the Order was. Some claimed it predated the Shinobi era or had been founded by the Sage of Six Paths himself. However apocryphal its origins, the Order of the Horned One was one of the most historic institutions in the world. Members lived in temples and essentially dedicated their lives to self-improvement. They were warriors, scholars, monks. They trained their bodies, minds, and spirits, all as part of a journey to understand the world and their place in it. The most important value to the Order was peace, followed closely by honesty. They were self-sustaining, growing their own food and making their own clothes, all but cut off from the outside world. It wasn't so much a religion as a way of life. Most people went all their lives without meeting an Order member. The ones that did almost always considered it an interesting experience. They were simply so different from other people, had such a different outlook. The most common word used was serene. They weren't always happy, but they always seemed so content, so at peace with the world, so accepting of all life sent their way. Personalities aside, Order members were also capable of what some people could only describe as miracles. Order members traveling the world had been known to stop natural disasters, solve unsolvable problems, end century-long conflicts. The Master Arashi made it rain in the Valley of Dust for the first time in 5 generations. Hadu the Benevolent stopped in a village suffering from a plague and wound up developing a vaccine that eradicated the disease worldwide. Settler Iroh spent an hour talking to the leader of the Baiju Rebellion and stopped 2 armies totaling 8 million from even drawing a blade. For sure, the Order could be a formidable force. But unlike Shinobi, they didn't offer their services for sale. It wasn't clear if they even used chakra to accomplish their remarkable feats. Attempts to force the Order to do anything against their will had all ended in failure, some rather famously. King Saddam, one of the richest men to ever live, had offered his entire fortune to a 120-year-old Order master for the secret to living forever. His only response had been a smile. The grass daimyo threatened to banish the Order from his country if the local temple didn't agree to become his personal bodyguards. The next day, the temple had vanished stone for stone and was never seen again. Perhaps the most legendary example was when Arapapa and his 10,000 bandits stormed the Order temple in Wind Country, convinced there was treasure inside. No one could agree on exactly what happened, but the fact was that the bandits were disarmed and captured, and not one of the 200 members of the temple died or was even significantly injured. Hiruzen got up, leaving the dishes where they were on the table. In short order, he sat back down, lit pipe in hand. "How did you find out?" he asked, breathing out a long cloud of fragrant smoke. Kakashi scratched his cheek where his mask ended, one of the only nervous tics he had. "I got a little help from Mitarashi Anko." Hiruzen couldn't help but grin. It was always nice to see the human side of his soldiers. Besides, what was the point of being old if you couldn't mock the young? "Is that embarrassment I detect, Kakashi? Is that from needing a helping hand or that it was given by a lovely woman your age?" "It was my day off last week," Kakashi continued, ignoring the question. I was at a bar and she approached me. She said I seemed more closed off than usual. Don't ask me why, but I didn't deflect her. Said I was frustrated with a cold case. She offered to help if she could, a fresh pair of eyes, no need for details. The silver-haired Jonan sighed. It's his birthday next week. For some reason, that fact was stuck in my head. I decided there was no harm in her looking through some of the old records I pulled. And she found something. It wasn't a question. And she found something. Took her 20 minutes tops. She was going through one of the departure logs from the window he could have vanished. She noticed there was no inventory for a cart one man was pulling. The gate attendant wrote down a description and dimensions, but not what was inside. Kakashi hung his head. I must have gone over that page a dozen times over the years. How could I miss that? You were overworked and stressed when you first read it. You concluded it was useless information, and that bias carried over to subsequent searches. In any case, it's a small detail. You didn't notice, she did. That's why investigation missions have at least 2 members to cover each other's blind spots. You mustn't blame yourself, Kakashi. I meant that as a rhetorical question, sir. Yes, and I took the chance to turn it into a lesson on humility and interdependence. That's why old people stick around, to beat our wisdom into hard young heads. Hiruzen's expression shifted from dignified reserve to unabashed lechery in a heartbeat. So, did you thank Anko-chan for the assist, dear boy? Don't spare the details if you did. Kakashi's face was red as a tomato. Sarutobi-san, I'd rather not discuss my personal life with my boss. I'm not your boss right now, I'm your host. And no offense kid, but what personal life? Other than Guy challenging you, when was the last time you had a non-work related interaction with another human being before you responded to Anko in that bar? Point taken. There was a blur of movement and Hiruzen noticed a slight bulge at Kakashi's nose as if he'd stuffed something up his nostrils. Let's say I had reread Icha Paradise Vol. 3 Chapter 8 that afternoon and leave it at that. You lucky dog, giggled Hiruzen. He'd been alone for over a decade, give him a break. The moment passed and again it was business. Resume your report. I tracked down the ninja in question and brought him to Inoichi for a memory retrieval. I told him it was so high above his clearance it would make his head spin, so he should keep quiet. The memory was faded and not too distinct to begin with. But, we managed to get this. Kakashi pulled out a printed photo, a digital recreation of the data Chakra had extracted from the gate guard's mind. Hiruzen assessed, memorized, and analyzed the man shown in an instant. Late 40s in appearance, bold, blue eyes, black goatee. Baggy, well-worn clothing, lost weight with age. Based on his carriage and profile, reduced muscle mass rather than fat loss. 2 details marked him out from an ordinary bystander. Bare feet and a signet ring on the left index finger. The seal was of a hollow 12-point star, with the triangles at the 10, 2, and 6 o'clock positions filled in. Hiruzen recognized him. And he felt his heart grow heavy as he started to draw a conclusion from his knowledge of the man's character. But he'd let Kakashi finish at least. Tell me what you see. I see a senior member of the order. They only give those rings to those who reach master rank. He introduced himself as Master Feng. I'm also reasonably certain he manipulated the gate guard somehow. In the memory, he wasn't in a hurry and just forgot to check the cart. There was a second pause before he waved this Master Feng on his way. Have you confirmed it was Feng who took Naruto? He has to be. I sent my summons to the temple Feng stated as his destination. They just got back this morning. They report that Naruto's scent is in the temple and it's been there for a while. Kakashi was breathing heavy, he was getting worked up over his crusade seemingly coming to an end. We know where he is. The temple's only a little over 20 miles away. Just say the word and Naruto will be back in the village before dawn. The third drew long and deep from his pipe. He breathed out with a sigh as weary as the world. I can't give that order, Kakashi. What? Kakashi shook himself from his reverie and was shocked at the defeat in Hiruzen's posture. Why the hell not? There's a complication you've failed to account. Something that would be obvious if you stopped getting ahead of yourself to consider all the facts. The former Anbu captain bristled. Why not spare me the trouble and just tell me? Sir, he tacked on, just barely sparing himself from insubordination. Naruto wasn't kidnapped. He left of his own free will. Kakashi shook his head. There was no way. It didn't make any sense. But then, was that because it was illogical or just something he didn't want to hear? Where'd you get that idea? It has been my privilege to meet Master Feng on more than one occasion. He runs the temple and we discuss trade of supplies from time to time. I don't hesitate to call him one of the best men I have ever known. He's as smart as me, a great leader, and above all a good person. He would never do anything to anyone without their consent. Whether he turned a blind eye to Naruto sneaking into his cart or put the boy there himself, he did so under the belief it was what Naruto wanted. I would stake my life on that. Kakashi felt his stomach start to sink. His goal, his obsession, of seeing his teacher's son return safely home was being ripped from his fingertips. Why would he leave? Why would he stay? Hiruzen pierced his companion with remorseful eyes. You've been looking for him all this time. Did you never stop to contemplate his position, how he must have felt? You know his life here wasn't happy. Every adult figure treating him with hostility or indifference. His peers mirroring the disgust, bullying and isolating him. At the end, what little comforts he had ripped away and forced to scavenge for food and shelter for over a week. Other than myself and a few other compassionate souls, he only ever received negative attention or no attention at all. That's all he ever knew. Hiruzen squeezed his pipe almost to the breaking point, the injustice and travesty of Naruto's tale making his blood boil. Konoha is where he was ostracized and reviled for reasons he never understood. Is it really so hard to believe that he might have chosen to live somewhere else? Anywhere else? What makes you so sure he's there by choice? It was a weak argument, but Kakashi was grasping at straws, desperate for any other answer. As I said, I know Master Feng. Imprisonment is as intolerable to him as abduction. And while I won't be so bold as to claim it impossible for Naruto to be coerced by another order member, I find it extremely unlikely. There's too many people he could ask for help, too much transparency in their lives to hide anything nefarious. Immorality isn't impossible, but it doesn't last long. Besides, order temples aren't cages. People leave the order every year. So far as we know, the only penalty is a binding oath to keep inner workings secret. Trust me, Kakashi, if Naruto is at that temple, then it's his decision. Kakashi was very still the way people get when the next twitch might explode into violent motion. The way when the next blink might let loose the tears. He should be here. He was born here. His parents died to protect us. He saved us. This should be his home. I know. But it isn't. Maybe it never was. But who's to say it never will be? Sir? The third Hokage sat back in his seat, a small upward tilt to his mouth. Hada Kakashi, I commend you for your zeal during the course of this investigation. You have demonstrated determination and devotion above and beyond the call of duty. You shall be credited with an A-rank mission's pay for every week you committed to the case. Okage-sama, that's too much. Kakashi exclaimed. Hush. You've more than earned it. In addition, I grant you 10 days leave, effective as of 6 AM tomorrow. Use this time to relax, explore some leisure activities. Take a hike, go sightseeing, something along those lines. Kakashi felt the fabric of his mask stretch over his cheeks as he smirked. His superior might as well have held up a boldface sign. I might just do that, sir. On a completely separate note, I remind you that for all its mysticism and might, the Order of the Horned One is considered a civilian organization. Members within Fire Country are subject to all the rights and protections of legal citizens under the daimyo's court. Of course, sir, Kakashi acknowledged, his eyes a tad dimmer. The message was clear. Naruto was not to be extracted. However, he could be escorted. There was nothing wrong with the boy deciding to come back all on his own. Kakashi was not to be a rescuer, but a realtor. If Naruto refused to return, at least Kakashi could say he tried. It goes without saying, of course, that your findings are to be classified as an S-rank secret. You are not to discuss this with anyone but myself and any others I deem appropriate. Should anyone ask, you are to reply that Uzumaki is safe and sound, out of enemy hands. Hiruzen took a couple annoyed puffs. It's not even a lie. The fact he was also out of our hands is irrelevant at this point. Hashi declined to comment. On his list of priorities, Naruto's Jinchuriki status ranked slightly under Pakin's grooming habits. It wasn't like Kushina or Mito-sama ever really used the power anyway. Any idiots who grumbled about the absence of a demon container from the village should shut up and focus on pulling their own weight for Konoha. Is there anything else, sir? No, that's all. Anything more you want to bring to my attention? Not at this time, sir. If you don't mind, I'll excuse myself now. I need to pack for my surprise vacation. By all means. Do enjoy yourself. Don't forget to leave your bowl in the sink. Of course not. Thank you for the meal, Sarutobi-san. Hiruzen waved his potential successor out the door. He finished up his pipe, washed the dishes, and changed into his pajamas. Once he'd sunk into the comfort of his orthopedic mattress, Hiruzen debated with himself before deciding he deserved a treat. I think I'll check in on Anko tonight, he chortled, pulling out his personal copy of the crystal ball, kicked safely away in the Hokage's office no one knew about. What are you up to this evening, fair daughter of Konoha? Haha. The gross misuse of power and village resources. Yes. Wait a minute, isn't that Kakashi's apartment? What is Shio? An inexcusable invasion of privacy? Definitely. I knew Jiraiya-kun had a female fanbase. Pack my ass. That lucky bastard gets to experience chapter 9 too. The victimless crime? Perhaps. Oh my, and chapter 10 as well, it seems. Come on, you two, do Zelda and the chimney sweep proud. Worth it. Lest that perverted genius I call my student. Absolutely. Naruto. The shinobi saint. Kakashi left bright and early, pleasantly sore in a way he hadn't experienced for longer than he cared to remember. The scarecrow once heard that a woman's craziness was irrelevant so long as she was equally hot. He certainly felt that was true for Anko, which was really saying something when you considered her behavior. He really was a lucky son of a bitch, no offense to his mother. The last haddock spent the first hour of his trip on a winding route, keeping an eye out for any routes he may have snagged. He wanted Naruto in Konoha, but never as one of Shimura's soulless drones. Death was better than a life as a disposable tool. Once he was as confident as he ever was that he wasn't pursued, he stopped in the woods to put on his disguise. Most of his best work had been done behind a white porcelain mask, but he still had a bit of a reputation. He wouldn't chance word of the copy nin sniffing around an order temple getting out. Temporary hair dye, false skin to cover his scar, one specially made opaque contact lens to minimize the chakra drain from opening his donated eye, and he was a new man once he had a change of clothes. Settling on the alias Maguza, he set out for Shiren Town, a rural village about a mile down the road from the Order Temple. He'd get a room, do a little recon, and start planning his meeting with Naruto. Even though he'd be under a false identity, he still found himself worrying about making a good first impression. He ignored the voice that hissed he shouldn't have needed one, that Naruto should have known him as long as the blonde could remember. He might have an issue with letting go of regrets, but he sure as hell didn't allow them to interfere with his work. And ensuring Uzumaki Naruto's homecoming was more than just a mission to him, it was a quest, an oath, a life goal. If he accomplished nothing else in his life, Kakashi would at least plant the seed in Naruto's mind to give the village of his birth a second chance. Kakashi arrived around lunchtime, he'd kept an easy pace, no real reason to hurry. It was a picturesque town, nothing above 2 stories, all brick or stone houses that had stood for hundreds of years and would likely stand for hundreds more. He secured a cozy room in the only inn for a steal and got a generous meal at a price that would have barely gotten him a cup of soup back in Konoha. The Jonin had the idle thought that between the lower cost of living and the ludicrous bonus he'd been awarded, he could retire and settle down in a town like this. He briefly entertained a fantasy of a house filled with kids and dogs, a warm chair by the fire and a wife in the kitchen. Cute, comfortable, crushingly boring. Maybe if he ever got maimed and was medically discharged. It was harvest season, so most people were out working the fields. There weren't many townsfolk out and about, and those that were regarded Kakashi with the wary curiosity of the small town. After half an hour of wandering, he finally found a promising opportunity. The wizened old crone, the kind that could make grandparents feel like naughty toddlers, as much a fixture of the town as the buildings. She was out on a porch, rocking away in her rocking chair, knitting a quilt the size of a carpet. Her hands were wrinkled but steady, and her eyes were bright. Kakashi went with his gut and approached. "Good afternoon, Abasama. You look like you know a story or two," he said, doling out the charm. "And you look like someone hankering for a story. You must be traveling. I've lived here all my life and I've never seen your face. What brings you around these parts?" "Oh, you know. I've been a city boy all my life. Figured I should take some time off work, visit the country, relax and get some fresh air out in the middle of nowhere." "No offense," he backtracked, looking contrite. "None taken, kid. Shiren pretty much is nowhere. 7 centuries since the cornerstone on this house was laid, and the only ones that seem to remember we exist are the daimyo's damn tax collectors, and them horns up the way." Kakashi suppressed a grin at the slang term for order members. He was onto something. After enduring a 20-minute history lesson on Shiren Town, Kakashi made his move. "Does the order come to town often?" "I've never actually met one of them, but you probably know them all by now, Abasama." "Ha. Just about. They stop by once a month to barter and help out around town. You just missed them, they were here yesterday. Plus they put on a show every year for the summer festival. The things they can do, it's like something out of a dream. If they weren't all so bent on finding the meaning of life or whatever, they'd be brilliant entertainers. You know, I hear those movie makers have started hiring ninja for some fight scenes. It's not the same, but you see my point, right?" "Yes, I do." "So, you've met them in person?" he asked, trying to steer the conversation. "You know, if you're that interested, you can go see them for yourself. They allow visitors. They don't let you into the library or nothing, but you can look around and ask questions," the woman informed, looking at him with a raised brow. Kakashi reacted smoothly. "I've always wanted to, actually. But I've never had the guts. They're just so mysterious. Pish posh, they're harmless. Horns ain't like them shinobi, Maguza-chan. Sure, some of them can break your bones with one finger, but I've yet to see one that would even hurt a fly. You ask something they don't like, they just smile and say sorry, but they can't answer." "I'll think about it." Kakashi gave a calculated pause. "Is it true they take little kids as initiates?" "Long as you say the vow and mean it, they take anyone, young uns included. Most of 'em are born into it, horns ain't celibate like other monks." Then there's the strays the higher ranks pick up on their travels. Orphans, runaways, street kids. It's a better life than they'd get otherwise. Those baby horns are just the sweetest, most polite dears. Don't go telling, but my favorite's little Naruto. Kakashi needed every ounce of his experience at deception to avoid breaking character. Jackpot. Wow, your whole face just lit up. This Naruto must be pretty special. Oh, he's just a regular ball of sunshine. Came back with Master Feng from Konoha about 6 years ago now. Never seen him without a smile on his face. Goes out of his way to help people, too. Remember how I said the horns help out when they visit? Naruto has this trick where he copies himself, does half the work all on his own. My house started falling apart once my hubby passed, but since Naruto showed up it's good as new. So talented, that boy. If he didn't know how to do a job, he'd figure it out by the next visit. And he's always the life of the festival when he performs. He's still a kid, no matter how much wisdom they teach him at the temple. The masters give a spectacle, but you can tell they're holding back a bit, don't want to scare us simple folk. But that Naruto, he sets out to dazzle us dumb. Almost gotten out of hand a couple of times, but can honestly say I've never been bored. Jinkin needed a new barn anyway, that oaf. Now this I have to hear, Kakashi encouraged, eagerly drinking up all the information he could get about the boy he might have raised in another life. He was already impressed, physical clones at 11 was no mean feat. It was an accident, really, Jinkin made a much bigger fuss than he had any right to. Loves the sound of his own voice, that one. Anyway, it was last year's festival. Now, horns are all pacifists, but they know how to use chakra and jutsu like shinobi do. They record everything, and they've had years and years to work stuff out all on their own. My guess is Naruto wanted to see if he could take something meant to cause pain and use it to cause joy instead. Either that, or he just thought it'd be cool, as the kids say. So, what he did is he made these dragons out of the elements and had them fight in the air. Wow. Sounds amazing. Wish I could have seen it. A lot better than fireworks, I can tell you that. But the fire dragon passed a bit too close to Jinkin's roof. Whole thing went up in cinders. Naruto-chan was so upset, he built a whole new barn 10 times better than the old one overnight. But that didn't stop that fool Jinkin from ranting about it for months. To be fair, it spooked some of the other townsfolk, seeing a boy who ain't even started puberty make the earth come alive by waving his hands. Naruto was much more reserved this year, all he did was put on a play. It was beautiful, but all he did was use his copies and some costumes. Whether from his interest in the actor or the old lady's skilled retelling, Kakashi found himself sucked into the performance given 3 months earlier. A giant wolf was terrorizing the land. One day, a great hunter from far away came to face it. The hunter proved triumphant, but with the wolf's dying breath it gave birth to a pup. The hunter knew that one day the pup would grow to be even stronger than his mother, but he couldn't bring himself to take an innocent life. The hunter settles down in the land, caring for and training the pup every day. In time it grew into a mighty beast, but remained as playful and obedient as any hound. He loved the hunter with all his heart. But one day the hunter died, and his 2 sons inherited control of the wolf. The older wanted to use the wolf as a weapon to conquer the land. The younger, fearing its power, wished to lock it away in a cage to protect others from ever being hurt. The 2 fought, and the younger prevailed. The older fled in shame, but swore he would return to claim the wolf. The 2 sons founded different tribes, which remained locked in a war over the wolf. The wolf grew bitter and angry between being imprisoned and forced to fight. He came to hate all humans, believing none would ever treat him with kindness and respect as the hunter had. He lashed out at all who neared and constantly tried to escape, which only made the people treat him worse. The cycle of hatred, fear, and pain went on for years and years, for the wolf was immortal and could not die. He spent all his time either hiding or languishing in captivity, remembering every wrong the tribes had done to him, while their descendants forgot and most couldn't remember why they even fought. Until one day, a young boy discovered the wolf's cage. The boy feared the wolf at first, for it was always growling and snapped when the boy came near. But the boy realized the wolf was sad and lonely and resolved to become his friend. Every day, the boy would visit the wolf. He would come and sit by the cage, sometimes in silence, sometimes talking about his day. In time, the wolf stopped trying to scare the boy and chose to ignore him. When he saw that the wolf had gotten used to him, the boy started to bring food and toys, trying to engage the wolf. But the beast was still wary of humans and refused all the boy's advances. The boy decided that the only way to gain the wolf's trust was to give it his. The boy came the next day, and the wolf ignored him as always. The boy stripped to show he was hiding no weapons. Then he slipped between the bars and entered the cage. In an instant, the wolf was on the boy. It held the boy down with one great paw, drawing blood with his sharp claws. The boy trembled with fear and cried with pain, but he did not struggle. The wolf hesitated. It had known the boy was different but thought him stupid or insane. But seeing the boy's tears, he realized the truth. The boy was like any other human, the only difference was that he had tried to help instead of hurt him. The wolf remembered the hunter, but it had been so long since he had hoped that he did now know what to do with it. The wolf gave a great howl in the boy's face and then let him go and turned away. The boy left to tend his wounds, smiling all the while. The next day, when the boy returned, the wolf accepted the food he brought. The day after, he nudged back the ball the boy tossed to it. Slowly but surely, a bond formed between them. The wolf was happier than he had been in lifetimes, for he had a friend again. The boy was glad to see the wolf smile, but knew he could not know true happiness unless he was free. Taking a leap of faith, the boy stole the key to the wolf's cage and set him free. And then it ended, just like that. There was almost a riot. Everyone wanted to know what happened next. Did the wolf run away? Did it attack the tribes? Did it choose to stay with the boy? Naruto just had this mischievous grin and said we'd all find out one day. Hell of a cliffhanger, Kakashi agreed, mind far away. There was a disturbing number of parallels between that story and what Kakashi knew about the history of the Uchiha and Senju clans. Members of the order spent half their lives meditating, and there were a number of prominent sealing masters among their ranks. Now that he thought about it, it would be more unlikely if Naruto didn't know about the Kyuubi. Could the play actually be a dressed-up historic reenactment? And the uncertainty of that ending set off all kinds of alarms in the veteran ninja's head. But surely Naruto wouldn't actually set the Kyuubi free, would he? Nicest child I ever met, but he is a bit of a prankster. I'll sure miss him while he's gone. Gone? What do you mean, gone? Kakashi demanded, forgetting himself in his shock. Relax, young man. He's not dying or anything. You nearly gave me a heart attack, overreacting like that. What's wrong with you? The crone demanded. I'm very sorry, just jumpy, drives people nuts. What do you mean, gone? He pressed. Naruto-chan made journeyman last week. One of the youngest ever, so I hear. He's going off on some pilgrimage. Said he'll visit but might not be back for years. Good for him. So, when's he leaving? Kakashi asked, trying for nonchalance. The woman pursed her lips in suspicion but answered. Tomorrow. Why so interested, Maguza-chan? Past as blinking, Kakashi cast a mild genjutsu. She passed out in a blink and she'd waken an hour with no memory of their encounter. The Jonin walked away casually, thoughts racing as he adjusted his plans to reflect the new timetable. There would be no chance of subtlety, no carefully cracked scheme. He would not lose Naruto after coming this close. If the order wanted honesty, he'd give them honesty. Once he made it past the town border, Kakashi abandoned his civilian pace. In minutes, he made it to the entrance of the order temple. It was a simple compound, a few sturdy buildings linked by stone paths, bordered by well-maintained gardens. The style was minimalist, aesthetics disregarded in favor of function. Everything was clean and in good shape, it looked almost new, yet Kakashi had the intuition that this place was older than even Shiren Town. Kakashi approached the closed gate set in a wall barely taller than he was. He realized belatedly he was still in his disguise, but it was too late to fix that now. For some reason, he was more nervous than the time he'd broken into Iowa. Gathering his courage, he knocked on the wood door. The door opened almost immediately, revealing a smiling old man about the Hokage's age. He wore nothing but an undyed cotton toga, and if he were any more relaxed he would flop boneless to the ground. Kakashi would have found a squirrel more intimidating, which might be the point. Welcome, friend. What is it you seek? Kakashi felt his tension start to ease almost against his will. It was like the guy was giving off second-hand bliss. I need to speak to Master Feng, he answered. Probably best if he met the man in charge before trying to lure Naruto away. Besides, he was curious to see the man that Sarutobi-sama held in such high regard. Ah, yes. We've been expecting you for some time now. Please follow me, Haddock-san. The gatekeeper turned and walked away, paying no heed to the visitor gaping after him. Kakashi shook himself out of it and followed. Behind him, the door closed of its own accord. Should I even bother asking how you knew it was me? Kakashi grumbled as he fell in step behind his guide. It is always good to question those who have the answers, the order member replied with utmost sincerity. Okay. How did you know who I was? Kakashi asked, trying to contain his wounded pride. I see more than most. It is a gift that serves me well in my role as watcher. I saw the Sharingan eye, the Anbu tattoo, and the Shinobi ID, and reasoned you were most likely the true Haddock Kakashi. Kakashi fingered the wallet tucked safely in his pocket, with his ID card hidden within a secret pocket inside. You're not related to the Hyuga clan, are you? Not by blood, no. I do have a cousin who just married a member of the branch house. I do not have the Byakugan, if that's what you meant. My gift has more to do with my soul than my blood. I don't suppose you could teach me how to do whatever it is you do. I would be happy to teach you. However, it would take several weeks of personal instruction and I do not think you plan to stay that long. Am I right? No, I'm not staying. I have to be back at work next week. Thanks for the offer, though. It is yours to take should you ever find yourself in a position to accept. The sentry stopped at an open doorway. Master Feng is waiting for you inside. Thanks. What's your name, by the way? The man smiled even wider, his eyes taking on a glowing orange tint. I am the Watcher. May your sight stay sharp, Haddock-san. Kakashi blinked and the Watcher was gone. He paused, then entered the room. Alright. I'm officially impressed. Can we dispense with the theatrics now? Master Feng, looking identical to the photo Kakashi had studied the last few days, was seated Caesar style on a mat set in the middle of the room. A tea set and second mat were set in front of him, otherwise the room was bare stone. Windows let in the afternoon sunlight. Our Watcher normally behaves that way. He acted no differently for you than he would for any visitor. We are not trying to intimidate you, Haddock Kakashi. Now, I believe a cup of tea is in order before we begin our discussion. Kakashi felt an odd sensation as Feng said his name, as if someone had breathed on his neck or laid a flower on his grave. Taking note but otherwise not reacting, Kakashi sat down before the order master. It still felt odd to be unmasked and yet recognized, vulnerable in a way that made him uncomfortable in a way he couldn't really describe. He only wore the make in the first place because it was a Haddock clan tradition, he wasn't self-conscious about his looks or anything. Shaking such idle thoughts away, Kakashi accepted the cup Feng offered him. The lack of any alarming sense in Feng's ease in drinking his own cup prompted Kakashi to take a sip. He had to stop himself from grimacing. It tastes quite bad, I know. But it had many health benefits. Those of us who drink this blend have not suffered so much as a common cold since we started, Feng stated, draining his cup with a blank expression. Kakashi set his cup aside. No offense, but I'll take my chances. None taken. Feng set his cup down and met Kakashi's gaze. His eyes betrayed nothing but calm contemplation. You know who I am, by Sarutobi Hiruzen's generous words if nothing else. I know who you are, by reputation and my own observations since you entered this temple you have many questions for me and I have but one for you. If you agree to answer my question honestly, then I shall answer yours as well as I can. Will you hear my question? Kakashi tensed at the reference to the Hokage but picked up on nothing else even remotely threatening. Reminding himself of what was at stake, Kakashi squared his shoulders. Fair enough. Ask away. Very well. Answer me this, Haddock Kakashi. Feng breathed in, and Kakashi was struck by a sense of stillness, as if the world had paused to witness this moment. Do you care about Uzumaki Naruto's happiness? Despite himself, Kakashi found himself hesitating. His reflexive yes was held back, a gut feeling, saying that it would be a lie, or not the whole truth. He stopped to think, to chew on the question, to really consider it. Did he, in his heart of hearts, care whether Naruto was happy? It should be an easy answer, except it wasn't. Seconds passed, the only sound that of two men breathing. Feng sat there, looking like he would wait until death and not lose his patience, as Kakashi was forced to take a hard look at himself and his reasons for being there. At last, Kakashi gave his answer. Yes, I do. I want him to come back with me, but not as a prisoner or if it'll make him miserable. He deserves better than that. His parents, they wouldn't care where he was so long as he was smiling. I want to think he can be happy in Konoha, but if he can't so be it. I'll just have to deal with that. Kakashi felt hollowed out. That admission had cost him something, though what exactly he wasn't sure. Still, it was worth it to see Feng nod and his demeanor shift from neutral to friendly. A similar kind of peace started to radiate off him as had the Watcher, making Kakashi feel relaxed in a way he couldn't remember ever being. Thank you for your truth. I will return the favor. Ask me your questions, Haddock Kakashi, and I will do my best to answer them fully. Kakashi blew out a breath, wondering where to start. Figuring he might as well get comfortable, he reached up to extract the contact lens and close his left eye. It didn't really affect his vision, but it felt more natural. Let's start at the beginning. How did you meet Naruto? I was taking a shortcut in the village of Konoha and sensed a disturbance. I went to check and found two intoxicated men assaulting a small boy. I ended the violence and subdued the two men. I comforted and healed the boy. That is how I met Uzumaki Naruto. Kakashi closed his other eye. Why did you sneak him out? The question laced any of the heat he would have added just 24 hours prior. It was resigned more than anything. Kakashi already knew the answer, and it hurt. Because he asked me to. Because I could not, in good conscience, leave a child alone in a dangerous situation. Because, quite frankly, I felt that the village did not deserve him and he did not deserve the village. That is why I smuggled Uzumaki Naruto out of the village and why I did not bring him to Sarutobi Hiruzen. Even when Kakashi had first entered with barely hidden hostility, Feng's face had not been as hard as it was now. So you know who he was? What he was? Kakashi asked. I knew he was Namikaze Minato's son, the resemblance is obvious. I did not know for certain that he was a Jinchuriki, only that there was a powerful seal placed upon him. He had no idea what it was or that it was even there. To my mind, that was all the more reason to take him away. No child should be kept ignorant of his heritage or the burdens placed upon them by the will of others. In any case, I would have done the same even if I knew all I know about him back then as I do now. Uzumaki Naruto was, first and foremost, a hurt, scared, lonely boy fate placed in my care. I would have fought to get him out. Fortunately, that proved unnecessary. Kakashi believed him. The conviction in Feng's eyes told the Jonin that the man would have battled the Hokage to help Naruto escape his pain. And for all he knew, Feng might have won. There was an unmistakable yet indistinct aura of power to the man. Kakashi honestly had no idea what the Order Master was capable of when provoked, and he found himself in no hurry to find out. How did you get him out? I know he was hid in your cart, but how did you make the guard not inspect it? The Order of the Horned One refers to the ability as influence. It is not Jinjutsu, which involves affecting the chakra of the brain. Rather, it is the direct interaction of the influencer's yin energy with the targets. It is a subtle and difficult art to master, and it has its limits. All the same, we who practice it find it a useful tool in avoiding conflict or obtaining information. I influenced the guard to forget that step in the procedure. Once we were out of sight of the village, Naruto emerged and we proceeded to travel to this temple. When and why did Naruto join the order? He asked to be initiated within an hour of us reaching the temple. As to why, I can give you my opinion, but you would do better to ask him directly. I'd appreciate your view first. Very well. Feng paused to pour more tea, topping off Kakashi's cup as well. I do not believe I manipulated Naruto into joining, per se. During our journey, he asked questions about the order and I answered. He became quite taken with the idea of a community that stressed tolerance, compassion, and interdependence. The fact that we study the same techniques as ninja, even if for different purposes, no doubt seemed attractive to a little boy. Also, I do not deny or dismiss the fact that as the man who, in his mind, saved him from a life of misery, I had a great deal of sway over him. He imprinted on me much like a duckling, he wanted to be near me and grow up to be much like me. When we arrived and he saw for himself what life within the order was like, his mind was made up. Short of actively discouraging him, I do not think I could have stopped him from choosing this path. Makes sense to me. I can think of a dozen people off the top of my head who became shinobi because they were helped by one as a kid. Kakashi girded himself and asked the question whose answer he most desired and most dreaded. Do you think he'd ever return to Konoha? Feng reached up to rub his temple, the most discomfort he'd displayed yet. The Watcher has informed me that you spoke with Wuxa Abasama. What did you hear of Naruto's departure tomorrow? Kakashi couldn't decide which interested him more, how the two had communicated or how the old man witnessed a conversation from over a mile away. Regardless, he answered. I heard he was going off on a walkabout or something. A rite of passage after reaching journeyman rank, I gathered. What does that have to do with my question? It concerns your question because Naruto is leaving to become a shinobi. Kakashi could have been knocked over with a feather. What? Why? How? I thought order members couldn't join other organizations. What you must understand are the requirements to become a journeyman of the Order of the Horned One. There are a number of tests and trials to pass, but it essentially comes down to two things. First, that there is nothing more one can learn from their home temple they could not learn elsewhere or discover themselves, and second, that one can be trusted to never disclose the secrets of the order without taking the seal of silence, except when to do so would harm others. Those who reach journeyman typically leave to travel the world, experience life in the normal world, rather than reading or hearing about it. Some visit other temples, some seek masteries, others become missionaries for the order, a few return to civilian life and only utilize the skills they learned when necessary, and every now and then, they take up military careers. Naruto will not be the first, but it is rare. I thought you all were pacifists. Why would Naruto want to be a ninja? A wild hope filled his chest. Wait, is he coming home all on his own? It would be incredibly ironic, not to mention hilarious in retrospect, if Kakashi had spent years tracking Naruto down only for the boy to return of his own accord. Actually, I believe that he intends to join Kumo due to its accepting stance on Jinchuriki. However, he may be open to other options, should he be sufficiently convinced. Feng took a sip of his healthy tea, paying no heed to Kakashi recovering from a mild arrhythmia at the thought of a Kumo with three-tailed beast containers. As for his desire to be a shinobi at all, I again can only speculate. To my knowledge, Naruto shares the order's respect for life and policy of violence as the last resort. However, he is dissatisfied with the passive nature of our lifestyle. He feels that it is not enough to merely observe, but we should act. He wants to change the world rather than settle for understanding it. He recognizes the brutality and duplicity inherent to life as a ninja, but thinks that the hidden villages ultimately do more to help the world than the order. Now that he's a journeyman, he is in a position to find out for himself. Kakashi raised a brow. Feng had shown more agitation in the last minute than the last half hour. I take it you don't approve. I have no right to judge, though part of me insists on doing so. But it is not for me to decide what Naruto should do, only he can do that. And I can see how he would thrive as a shinobi. My apprehension is mostly over how the experience will change him. Life in an order temple is sheltered, but it is stable. It is, in many ways, the exact opposite to life in a village full of ninja. I know Naruto will be able to face any challenge and grow from it, I just find myself worried what direction he will grow towards. He will change the world, of that I have no doubt. I haven't met anyone with that much raw potential since Senju Hashirama. But he has never known loss or true suffering. He has never known a person or situation that goes against everything he believes in. He has never known hatred. And he will know them all if he stays long enough in your world. I am certain of it. I fear for us all should he succumb to them rather than overcome them. Kakashi gulped. Okay, there's a lot of that I'll want to come back to. But first off. You knew the first Hokage. Yes, I did. He was quite the character. He came to try and broker a treaty between his future village and this temple. I had just become the temple master. I told him the order refuses to enter any binding agreement with an outside party, but I helped edit his proposal to the daimyo to repay him for the time and thought. A man who honors his neighbors honors himself, after all. I truly have no idea how he was ever friends with Uchiha Madara for any length of time, their dispositions were like night and day. Anyway, he seemed to think my help went a long way in helping to found his village. He gifted us with those sakura trees you see outside. Feng shook his head. Forgive me, I seem to be rambling. I suppose Naruto leaving has put me in a nostalgic mood. Kakashi kept his face carefully blank. The Konoha Charter was ratified over 50 years ago. Feng smiled humorously. That's not a question, but I'll answer anyway. As I told you, this recipe has a great many health benefits. We named it 1000-year tea. Kakashi processed that little gem. Without missing a beat, he picked up his cup and drank his cooling tea. The taste was even worse cold, but it was apparently worth it. Any chance I can get a copy of that? No, there is not. The High Temple has deemed it an order secret, I'm afraid. Even if I could tell you, the ingredients are rare and most require specialized care to cultivate. If you wish to drink it consistently, you will have to join the order. I see. I'll definitely think about it. Mentally compartmentalizing the fact he was drinking an elixir of life, Kakashi said back to Naruto, why are you so convinced he'll have an impact on the world? I could tell you that I sense the touch of destiny upon him, but I'll stick to more concrete reasons. His natural talent is phenomenal, and he doesn't shy from toiling to refine it into skill. His progression was impressive from the start, even before he'd learned to read and could begin self-study. And then he discovered shadow clones. Kakashi pushed past his shame at learning a 6-year-old was illiterate to high alert. How did he learn the jutsu? It's a Konoha A-rank secret. Thang only sighed. Paranoia, thy name is ninja. The order are not thieves, had a Kakashi. Senju Tobirama was not the first to invent the technique. A member of a distant branch of the Nara clan developed an identical jutsu some 400 years ago. A traveling order member was taught it in gratitude after helping to repel an ambush. The inventor, as well as his clan, died in a follow-up attack. The order member brought the knowledge to the Rain Temple, where it was recorded and spread amongst the order. That is how Naruto found shadow clones. Kakashi rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. I'm sorry. Knee-jerk reaction to hearing a state secret mentioned casually. Accepted. Now, as I was saying, Naruto took to shadow clones like he was born for them. He exploits the memory transference for training to the point of abuse. If he hadn't received order training in meditation and yin-yang control, he might well have gone insane or collapsed into a coma from the pace he maintains. As it is, he remains a well-adjusted young man who just so happens to learn at an exponential pace. He was progressed more in the past year than I have in the past decade. What takes his peers months to achieve proficiency takes him days. Only 1 in 100 of those who join the order reach the rank of journeyman, and the average time it takes in 15 years. Naruto achieved it in 6, and we delayed it as long as we could to ensure he wasn't getting ahead of himself. If he keeps up his current rate, I estimate he could learn the sum of human knowledge by his 40th birthday. And if I know him, he's more likely to speed up than anything. Kakashi wasn't sure if he could believe what Feng was saying. He knew it made sense theoretically, but he couldn't imagine it in practice. He'd used shadow clones himself to speed up learning certain jutsu, and the toll on his chakra reserves was intense, to say nothing of the mental exhaustion. He couldn't see how anyone could maintain it long-term. Beautiful Naruto actually could do it consistently without burning out. Kakashi tried to imagine a man who knew every jutsu. A man who had read every book, seen every piece of art, heard every piece of music. A man that could shoe a horse as readily as building a computer or sailing a boat. Quite simply, a man who knew everything. Even if only gifted with average intelligence, the Hada could see how such a man could bring about change. Okay, I see how that would give you confidence he'll hake things up. Indeed. Yet even if he were dumb as a stone and weak as a worm, I would still think he would leave an impression on history. Kakashi was almost afraid to ask. Why? What is it about him? His will. His faith. His loving heart. He does his best at everything and brings out the best in everyone he meets. He lights up a room when he enters and all the world seems brighter knowing he is in it. He is an inspiration, a beacon, a light to which most flock like moths to a flame. Feng's face was a mixture of pride and awe, like a father speaking of a son he knew and accepted as his superior. It disturbed Kakashi to see the man so absorbed just by talking about his student. But then the glow faded and Kakashi was looking at a man consumed by worry. And that is what keeps me up at night, had a Kakashi. Wherever Uzumaki Naruto goes, whatever he does, people will follow him. At the moment, he is happy and determined to be a force for good in the world. But there is no guarantee he will stay that way. Life as a shinobi may temper his resolve, or it may break him entirely. And I have tried and failed at changing his mind. Now, I can only pray that whatever happens to him out there, he will not waver from his current path. Kakashi grinned, and it was much more effective when it wasn't covered up. If he's anything like his mom or dad, he'll be too stubborn to even think about it. Feng did not reply, but his bearing returned to one of peaceful contentment. We shall see. Now, we eat early in this temple, and visitors are not permitted to stay for dinner. If you want to have a chance to meet Naruto and extol the virtues of Konoha, then your next question should be your last. Kakashi blinked and realized the sun was shining at a different angle. His mind scrambled, unsure whether he wanted this final answer out of the way or dragged out. Remembering his distress near the end of his talk with Waksa, he asked, what is Naruto's relationship with the Kyuubi? Feng shook his head. That is for Naruto to tell you. I refuse to disclose details on something that personal. I will say that the play Naruto put on last solstice was heavily based on his own interactions with his guest. Kakashi shrugged, though he was not nearly at ease as the gesture would suggest. Okay then. Thank you for meeting me, Master Feng. Kakashi braced himself. May I see Naruto now? Feng's mouth quirked. He looked over at the door. You may come in now, Uzumaki Naruto. You wish to see me, Master Feng? Came the tenor voice of a child. Kakashi turned his head, half in denial that this moment had finally come. He finally got to meet his target, his obsession, his sensei's legacy. His left eye opened unconsciously. His first impression was of color. Naruto wore an identical toga as the Watcher, except it was the bright orange of a summer sunset or tangerine. His skin was the golden brown of a natural tan darkened by years out in the sun. His hair hung to his hips in a riotous mane of spikes, yellow as the petals of a sunflower. It was his eyes that stood out most though, blue as the southern seas, almost seeming to glow with an inner radiance. Other details began to filter in. While he had gotten his father's coloring, Naruto clearly took after his mother in terms of looks. 3 black lines stood out on each cheek, the mark of what was imprisoned within him. He carried himself with the grace of a martial artist, and for a boy on the verge of turning 12, he was ripped. The only kid Kakashi had ever seen with muscle development like that was Guy's new disciple, and there was just something wrong with that boy. Feng hadn't been kidding when he said Naruto wasn't afraid of hard work. He exuded an aura like the other 2 order members Kakashi had met, but it was tangibly different. Rather than filling him with a soporific sense of peace, Kakashi felt a buzz, as if he had received a jolt of pure energy, and the world was wide open with opportunities to go use it. Even standing still, Naruto gave off a restless energy, as if he would rather be out doing something, anything, than simply staying in place. And his chakra reserves were enough to make Kakashi want to back away in frightened awe. Kakashi knew that, in all modesty, he was one of the strongest ninja in Konoha. He'd been a child prodigy, and he hadn't allowed himself to stall or burn out. He would admit to some complacency after the Kyuubi attack, but his search for Naruto had kicked him into overdrive. His chakra reserves were currently around that of Minato-sensei the day he died, if not even higher. Naruto had more. A lot more. At least 10 times more. And it shone with an intensity Kakashi had never seen before, as if other men's chakra was raw ore and Naruto's a polished jewel. It burned within, throughout, and around him, blazing like a bonfire and yet calm and gentle as a candle. Kakashi knew next to nothing about the boy, no, the young man, but one thing was now seared into his brain. In terms of sheer energy, Uzumaki Naruto was the most powerful human being he'd met. Kakashi closed his eye, blocking off the sight of that enormous well of chakra hidden in the Namikaze Saiyan. Naruto looked at Kakashi with an unreadable expression. Wordlessly, he walked over to Feng, who offered his open palm. They clasped hands, and Kakashi was somehow certain that they were exchanging information wordlessly somehow. It lasted just a bit longer than a standard handshake, and then both let go. I shall take my leave, Feng said, standing up in a move elegant in its ease. Please give my regards to Sarutobi Hiruzen, Hada Kakashi, and remind him that he will always be welcome in the walls of the order. May peace live in your heart. With that parting blessing, Feng walked out the door, leaving Kakashi alone with the object of his deepest shame and deepest hope. Naruto took a seat on the mat Feng had vacated. He poured himself a cup of thousand-year tea. It came from the pot cool, but Kakashi noticed that it was steaming by the time it reached Naruto's lips. Such nonchalant use of fire nature chakra, he assumed, in lieu of some secret order trick, drove home the impression his Sharingan had given. This was no ordinary 11-year-old. "I know you're Kakashi," Naruto said, absent any warning. "I know you were my father's student. I know that Hokage assigned you to find me. I know that you've tried very hard to do so for years. Master Feng tested you and you passed, but before we speak, I ask that you take my test. Do you consent?" Kakashi felt chills run up his spine. He found himself in the unpleasant situation of being at the mercy of someone he wasn't sure he could take on and win in a fight. Naruto wasn't giving off killing intent or really any hostility, but there was ice in those eyes. All those years of searching, thinking of Naruto as a helpless child, and now to discover he was anything but. Reminding himself of why he was there, Kakashi pushed past his unease. "Yes, I do. Then answer me this. Who did you come here for? Was it your target? Your sensei's heir? The Kyuubi container? Or did you come for me, Naruto the person?" Naruto's face could have been carved from stone. Kakashi saw a boy with Kushina's face and Minato's eyes looking at him with guarded caution, and could not help but weep. "I'm sorry," he said, keeping his voice steady through the tears he did not try to stop. "I wish I could say I came for you, but I didn't. I came here for my mission, my guilt, for the legacy of the fourth. It wasn't until last night that I even stopped to think of you as a person and not just a hostage or object. You were the treasured item stolen away I had to retrieve. My search was never about you, it was about me, about making up for my mistake in not being part of your life. I'm so sorry, but that's the truth. For what it's worth, I leave wishing we'd been close enough I'd come for you, Naruto." Naruto closed his eyes, seeming to meditate for a moment. When they opened, they shone with as much warmth as the sun, and the purest smile Kakashi had ever seen filled Naruto's face. If he weren't already, Kakashi would have cried at the sight. "I forgive you. Thank you for respecting me with a real answer. If you'd lied and tried to sway me over with some foster brother nonsense, you'd have never seen me again." "I believe you," Kakashi said. Between the protection of the order and his allegedly phenomenal skills, Naruto could vanish like a ghost if he wanted. "Thanks for giving me a chance. Let's start over." Naruto held out a hand. "Hi, I'm Uzumaki Naruto. Nice to meet you." Added Kakashi. "Nice to meet you too." Kakashi grinned and took the hand. It was warm, calloused, and quite strong for its size. A current of that restless energy Kakashi had sensed from the start passed with the contact. Kakashi let go, feeling like he'd had a whole pot of coffee in one gulp. Naruto winced self-consciously. "Sorry. It's a wonderful problem to have, but chakra overflow is still an issue." "No problem," Kakashi said absently. He felt positively buzzed. "If you don't mind my asking, how the hell does chakra overflow even happen?" "Lots of ways. You'd be surprised how easy it is, Tebeo. Mine involves making a shadow clone with half my chakra, having him recharge to full, and having him dispel last. Floods my coils on top of what I have left, fast way to stretch your chakra coils." Kakashi felt his heart warm at the verbal tick. "Your mom used to do that. Every now and then, she'd just blurt out databang." Naruto laughed. "Yeah, I know. It's annoying but in a good way, isn't it?" Kakashi's brow furrowed. "How could you possibly know that? For that matter, how did you know Minato-sensei fostered me after the war?" Kakashi had already been a legal adult, but he'd appreciated the gesture. Besides, after losing Obito and what happened with Rin, he probably shouldn't have been living alone anyway. Anyway, it wasn't something Naruto should have known short of reading Kakashi's file. Naruto laid a hand over his navel, smile on his lips. Mom and Dad both left some of their chakra in the seal. They're constructs with all their memories, like ghosts or messages in a bottle. Each was meant to come to my aid if certain actions regarding the seal occurred and then fade away as the chakra that made them was expended. Instead, I hooked them both to a chakra converter so they can stick around." Kakashi gaped. "Your mom and dad are living inside you?" "Yep. People talk about their parents always watching over them, but in my case they really are." Naruto laughed before his smile turned bittersweet. "Of course, they're not really my mom and dad, no more than a reflection in a mirror is a real person. I know and they know that they're basically shadow clones that just have yet to dispel. But they know everything my birth parents did and they love me the same way they would have, so why bother splitting hairs?" Naruto shook his head, his hair swaying like a horse's tail. "So, yeah, mom and dad live in the back of my head. It took a while to get used to, but I don't regret keeping them around. They told me all about you, along with a few other people, so that's how I knew." Kakashi swallowed, his mouth dry as an oven. Is it possible for me to see them? Or maybe to talk to them through you?" Naruto shook his head apologetically. I'd be happy to, but neither of them want to talk with you right now. I may have forgiven you, but they haven't. That's fair. Kakashi did his best to hide how much that hurt. I'm still grateful you forgave me so quickly. I expected to grovel a bit more. May your actions against others reflect the actions you wish made against you. That's the first lesson taught in the order. It's sadly much easier said than done, but we all try to live up to it. Should I ever abandon you, I would hope you'd be just as understanding. As with the Watcher, Kakashi detected no guile or sarcasm at all. I'll do my best, though I don't think abandonment is in your character. Everyone I meet that knows you makes you out to be a saint. Naruto blushed and rubbed the back of his head exactly how his father used to. I just try to be a nice guy. Anyone else could do it too, Dadabeo. Kakashi just smiled. He understood what Feng meant now. The power, the humility, the sheer goodness, how could Naruto not go on to do great things? Of course, Kakashi acknowledged as apprehension curled in his gut, he could also do terrible things if the world hurt him too deep. So best he was in a nurturing, supportive environment like Konoha, right? Hoping he wasn't making a mistake, Kakashi took the leap. So, Feng tells me you want to be a shinobi. Naruto nodded, his face hardening. Yes, I do. Ninja do a lot to harm, but they also do a lot to help. At the very least, they do things. They're players in the game, not spectators like the Order. Life here is like being in a bubble. I understand why the High Temple forbade getting involved in outside affairs, I do. The world needs sanctuaries like this, and the Order couldn't do some of its most important work if it weren't neutral and removed. But I can't live quietly on the sidelines knowing there's so many problems out there. If the world were burning down, the Order would protect a clearing and make do with the ashes afterward. I would be out in the fire, trying to put it out. Sure, I might burn to death, but if I saved one life, it would be worth it. And it feels like it is burning down, sometimes. Naruto sighed, taking a deep sip of tea. He was clearly quite passionate about this. Look, I'm not crazy. I know that I can only do so much. And some of it, maybe all of it, may not turn out the way I hope. But I'd rather go and try and find out the hard way than wonder about what might have been. In the end, I just want to leave this world better off because I was in it. And the way I see it, there's a chance I can do more good living as a shinobi than living as a horn. There's a chance I can do less good and more bad too, but I feel that it's worth the risk. He smiled ironically. Besides, assuming I don't get killed in action, I can always change my mind and return to the Order. So I have that going for me. Kakashi tried not to let on that chills were running down his spine. That's a very good reason. Better than mine, at least. Naruto lifted a brow. What was your reason for becoming a ninja? I was good at it, Kakashi stated plainly. It was also expected of me. See, everyone has their own motivation, but there are really only 4 reasons for becoming a shinobi or any other kind of soldier. There's guys like you, the noble ones, that genuinely want to serve their fellow man. Then there's the legacies, the clansmen like me, for whom their family had always done it and they felt inspired or duty-bound. There's simple employment, people who just want or need a job, a reason to get out of bed in the morning. Kakashi hesitated, but he wasn't going to insult Naruto by sugarcoating. And then there's the 4th reason. The chance to kill someone and get away with it. Naruto had a pained yet resigned look on his face. I don't want to believe that any human being is inherently evil. Still, as my friend Jack puts it, some people are put here to make the rest of us look good. Like I said, ninja can bring harm to the world. But there's bad eggs in every walk of life, even the Order. True. Kakashi decided to go for it. So why did you pick Kumo instead of Konoha? Naruto didn't answer immediately, taking great care to pour out the last of the tea. He stared into his cup. This may surprise you, but Konoha was originally my first choice. It was the closest village, I was familiar with it, and I'd avoid the red tape of becoming citizen to a different country. Kakashi hid his confusion. Really? You weren't put off by your history there? Naruto grinned like he knew something Kakashi didn't. I won't reveal Order secrets, but it's almost impossible to reach journeyman with unprocessed trauma. I've made my peace with what happened to me as a child. The hatred the villagers had for me was born from anger, which was born from fear and loss. A terrible event occurred, lives were destroyed, and people were told the cause was locked away in some nameless kid. I became a symbol for that night, some misunderstood and believed I was Kyuubi-san in human form. In any case, I was a scapegoat, an outlet for the people's pain. It wasn't right, but it happened. My carrying a grudge wouldn't fix anything. Naruto's smile became radiant. And if I hadn't been treated so terribly, Master Feng and I might never have met. All the wonderful things and people in my life might not have been. In a way, I am actually grateful because of how things turned out. Kakashi shook his head. You're a bigger man and I would be, that's all I'll say. So what made you reconsider? I may be over it, but that doesn't mean the village is. If I returned, all those old resentments and negative emotions would resurface. At the time I was deciding, it didn't seem worth it to subject myself and the people of Konoha to my presence there. I could handle it, but I wouldn't want to disturb the citizens who have gotten comfortable with my absence. Naruto flinched like he'd heard a loud noise. Also, the voices in my head had very strong objections to my return to the village. For the record, you probably shouldn't mention that so casually. People might get the wrong idea. Kakashi fidgeted, getting blood back into his legs. So Minato-sensei and Kushina-san don't want you in Konoha. His heart sank at the thought, but he wasn't really surprised. Mom is of the opinion that I should never come within a mile of that place ever again, unless it's to watch everyone who so much as glared at me belly crawl over broken glass in penance. Her hair lifts up whenever she thinks of how I was treated, so it's safe to say she's still angry. Kakashi shivered. The red hot-blooded habanero was never more terrifying than when her red tresses split into 9 sections and floated behind her head. It was downright unholy. Yeah, I see why you'd go along with that. No kidding. Dad's not on board either. He's disillusioned over the goodness of the citizenry and how effective the third would be in his absence. Also, he wants me far away from Shimura Danzo. That's another valid point. He wouldn't be so bold as to outright kidnap you, but you might vanish mysteriously on a mission. Of course, there's probably someone like that in Kumo, too, he tacked on in a token effort. He'd all but resigned himself to Naruto leaving for the other village. There are warmongers in every hidden village and every capital city. All things being equal, it made sense to go with a village with the most tolerant attitude towards Jinchuriki like myself. Until today, nothing had come along to make me reconsider. What do you mean? Kakashi asked. Naruto grinned. Do you want me to come back with you to Konoha? Of course. So I will, Naruto said simply. Kakashi blinked, hardly daring to believe his luck. Why? Because I'd have no friends when I arrived in Kumo or any other hidden village. If I go to Konoha, I'll have at least one, Naruto grinned. Are you serious? Kakashi was gobsmacked. It couldn't possibly be that easy, could it? Naruto looked Kakashi straight in the eye. I will become a shinobi of Konoha. Mark my words, Dadabeo. Naruto opened his eyes and sat up, the first rays of dawn coming through the window of his room. He got out of his cot and went to get dressed in the clothes he'd laid out last night. The rest of his wardrobe was tucked into a ceiling scroll that was already packed into his backpack. Dressed, Naruto put on his pack and took just a moment to reflect on how much he changed since he'd first gotten this room 6 years ago. Then, saying a silent goodbye, Naruto left his room behind. Naruto had made all his farewells last night after dinner, so he didn't bother with waiting. He went straight for the front gate. He exchanged a final handshake with the watcher and then exited the temple, possibly to never return. Naruto walked sedately down the road towards Shiren Town. He reached the town and went for the inn, where Kakashi had rented a room. Naruto exchanged a smile and nod with the proprietor before taking a seat in the common area, waiting for the disguised Jonin to come down. Kakashi came down about an hour later, back in disguise. He walked up to Naruto, his eyes lighting up. Naruto was reminded that, as far as Kakashi was concerned, this was a monumental triumph. He was finally returning Naruto to Konoha after over half a decade of exhaustive searching. Morning, Naruto. Morning, Magusa, Naruto said with an honest smile. Feel like breakfast here or at our destination? We're in no hurry. Besides, it'll be a lot cheaper to eat here than there. That said, Kakashi waved down the innkeeper and ordered 2 full breakfasts. As Kakashi and Naruto waited for their meals, Kakashi engaged in small talk. So I take it your favorite color is orange. Naruto looked down at his orange guy with black borders, the same shade as his toga had been yesterday. What gave me away? What about you? Purple. Dark purple, specifically, Kakashi said, inexplicably blushing a bit. I see. So, what's the plan once we reach the village? We'll report to Hokage-sama, then I presume we'll see about getting you an apartment and situated in the village, Kakashi postulated. Naruto nodded. Very well. So, you still reading those Icha novels that Jiraiya writes? How do you know about that? Kakashi asked with a raised brow. Naruto just tapped his temple, reminding Kakashi of their talk yesterday. Oh, right. Never mind. Yes, I am. They're excellent pieces of literature. I never read one. What's the ratio of porn to plot on average? Naruto asked, betraying nothing but honest curiosity. You're a bit young to be reading them. Wait until you're 18, buy one, and find out for yourself, Kakashi countered. Naruto sighed. Fair enough. Though I would argue that age limits for certain pieces of literature and other media are arbitrary and pointless. Cry me a river, Kakashi said deadpan. Their food arrived, and they set about fueling themselves for the day. Once they were done and Kakashi paid, Naruto hefted on his backpack while Kakashi checked out. That done, they both exited the inn and walked down the main road until Shiren Town had vanished behind them. How fast do you want to get to Konoha? Kakashi asked, itching to move faster. You set the pace. I'll keep up, Naruto stated with absolute confidence. If Kakashi hadn't seen how obscenely large Naruto's chakra reserves were yesterday, he may have doubted that a mere 11-year-old could keep up with a jonin. As it was, the Scarecrow was curious to see just how fast his companion could be. If you're sure. And with no more warning than that, Kakashi kicked it into high gear, all out sprinting down the road so fast that he vanished into a blur. Without so much as blinking, Naruto began running at an equal speed and caught up with Kakashi in seconds. Kakashi could only shake his head as the two of them raced down the road to Konoha. Anyone who thought the order was weak was dead wrong. At the pace they set, the walls of Konoha were visible within 20 minutes. Kakashi held up his fist in the signal for stop, and they both slowed down gently to bleed off their momentum. "I'm almost afraid to ask if you could go any faster," Kakashi said as he breathed deep to make up for the oxygen debt in his system. "Not even out of breath," Naruto shrugged. "If I was motivated, sure." Naruto looked at the slowly approaching walls of Konoha. "When I was a kid leaving this place, I swore I'd never come back. Funny how age and experience can change your perspective on things." Kakashi looked at Naruto with concern. "Regretting coming back already?" Naruto turned to Kakashi and gave that sunny grin that could strike a person dumb. "None at all. Now, maybe you should get out of disguise before we reach the gate guards and they ask who the hell you are." Naruto waited patiently as Kakashi went into the trees to change into his normal appearance. When he emerged, he looked completely different from the Maguza persona Naruto had been dealing with. Naruto chuckled. "Don't worry, I won't tell anyone what's behind your mask." "Much appreciated," Kakashi said back. They reached the main gate of Konoha. Kakashi and Naruto got into the line leading up to the Chunin assigned to handle intakes that day. When it was their turn, Kakashi flashed his shinobi ID. "Hada Kakashi, escorting Uzumaki Naruto." The Chunin nodded and signed their names in the ledger. "Proceed, Haddock-san." As they were walking away they heard the man mutter Uzumaki, "Why does that name ring a bell?" They proceeded through the village towards the Hokage Tower. Naruto looked around, noting places that seemed familiar and things that had changed. The people certainly weren't reacting to him the same. No sneers or deliberate dismissal, the few that noticed him at all gave polite grins. Naruto doubted this new treatment would last once his identity was made public once again. But he'd enjoy it while it lasted. The two reached the Hokage Tower and, Kakashi using his shinobi ID to get past all checkpoints, they proceeded to the Hokage's office. Kakashi knocked on the door and Naruto heard a voice he hadn't heard in over half a decade, say enter. Bracing himself for a reunion, Naruto followed Kakashi into the office. The office was well organized, books and scrolls and other documents all in their proper place. Sitting behind the simple wooden desk was Sarutobi Hiruzen, the third Hokage. Kakashi bowed slightly in respect. "Hokage-sama. I brought him back." The elderly ninja looked up, eyes honing in on Naruto. A grandfatherly smile spread across his lips when he saw the blonde there before him. "Naruto-kun, welcome back, my boy." "Thanks, Hokage Jiji," Naruto said, using his old nickname for the village leader. Hiruzen's grin got even wider. "Oh, how I missed being called that." "So, Naruto-kun, what brings you back to Konoha?" Naruto replied honestly, as he'd been raised to in the order. "I intend to become a shinobi. Konoha was the best option of all the choices once I was aware of all the facts." "Is that so? Well, we'd be happy to have you. From what I can sense, you're already quite the formidable fighter. I'll give you a few days to get acquainted with the village and then I'll arrange an assessment to determine what rank you should be," Hiruzen stated, leaning back in his chair. Naruto cleared his throat. "Actually, I'd prefer to start at the bottom. Put me in the academy." Both the Hokage and Kakashi were surprised by that. "Are you sure, Naruto? You're at least Takubetsu Jonin level from what I've seen. You really want to work with a bunch of baby ninja that barely know which end of the kunai to hold?" Kakashi asked. "My mind is made up. I want to progress from student to genin to chunin and so on like every other potential shinobi my age," Naruto stated clearly. Hiruzen lit his pipe and took a puff. "Very well. If that's your decision, then I shall respect it. As of tomorrow, you'll join the current graduating class." "Thanks, Hokage Jiji." Naruto readjusted his backpack. "At the moment, I'm homeless. I don't suppose you could help me fix that?" "Of course." Hiruzen went digging through his stacks and stacks of paper to find a specific piece. The Hokage peered at the most recent apartment listings for Konoha. "What kind of budget do you have?" "I was given 10,000 ryo as a parting gift from the temple. That's all I have," Naruto answered. There's an apartment in the same building as Kakashi here. Owned by the village so technically I'm the landlord. 500 a month. Your savings should last until you graduate and become a genin and start earning money on missions." "I'll take it," Naruto said simply. He'd have happily camped out in one of the training grounds if he had to. Whatever this apartment was like, he'd adapt to it. "Well, alright then." The Hokage found a few forms in the maze of documents he kept and filled them out. With a stamp of the Hokage's seal, Naruto was officially a tenant. "There we go. Rent is due first of the month. you can move in today. Hiruzen dug in a drawer and pulled out a key and tossed it to Naruto. Thanks, Hokage. Naruto grinned. Well, this has been a very pleasant break, but I'm afraid I have to get back to work. See you both later, Hiruzen said, taking the top form from his inbox and giving it a read. Naruto tilted his head. Hokage. Wouldn't it be much easier to use shadow clones to do all this paperwork? The Hokage froze. Then, moving with steady intent and purpose, he placed the Hokage hat to the side and began to bash his head quite violently against his desk. Stupid. Hokage-sama. Kakashi called out, at a loss of what to do as his commander-in-chief seemed to have a mental breakdown. The Hokage, still banging his head, held up a finger in a one-moment gesture. After another dozen headbutts to the surprisingly sturdy desk, the Sarutobi stopped. There. Got it out of my system. Both Kakashi and Naruto were hiding sweat drops. Hokage. Should I be concerned about this? About you? Naruto asked delicately. Just my way of processing years of pent-up frustration. I've been searching for decades for an answer to paperwork. And you come along and just drop it in my lap as if it were obvious the whole time. Hiruzen made the hand seal for shadow clones and created 2 copies of himself. The 2 doppelgangers settled in to do the mountain of paperwork while the original grinned and pulled out the latest copy of Icha. Enjoy the rest of the day, gentlemen. I certainly will. Kakashi and Naruto exited the office. Let's never speak of this, Kakashi said flatly. Agreed, Naruto replied right back. Let me show you to the apartment building, Kakashi said, leading Naruto out of the tower. They stuck to the streets like civilians rather than taking to the rooftops. So, why grow your hair so long? Kakashi asked. You'd be surprised how many jutsu there are that utilize a person's hair. Jiraiya uses some of them, so dad tells me. It's a lot of maintenance, but this way even if I were buck naked, I'd still have a handy weapon within easy reach, Naruto answered forthrightly. Kakashi nodded. Clever. I just see it as being prepared. Now, are you aware that a woman has been stalking us since we left the Hokage Tower? Before Kakashi could reply, one Mitarashi Anko landed on his shoulders, bending over so she could grin upside down into Kakashi's uncovered eye. Hello, lover, she said with her usual sadistic playfulness. Hi back, Kakashi said with an unconscious grin. I take it you missed me. I've banged my way through every half-decent guy in this village. You are in my top 3 easily. When you left yesterday, you deprived me of my new favorite toy. Care to explain yourself? She demanded, still wrapped around his head. I had an off-the-books mission. If I told you, I'd have to kill you, that sort of thing. Sorry for the inconvenience, Kakashi shrugged, even with a kunoichi riding his shoulders. Anko rolled backwards to land on her feet behind Kakashi. Anything to do with the blonde brat? She asked, eyeing Naruto up and down and not seeming that impressed. Uzumaki Naruto. Pleased to meet you, Naruto said genuinely. Anko's eyes widened in recognition. Oh, I see. This is what that cold case was about, wasn't it? Indeed. And naturally the details of said cold case are considered an S-rank secret. So no blabbing, Kakashi said, holding up a finger to his lips. Anko shrugged. So we finally got back our secret weapon. What's the big deal? He's just 10 years old. I turn 12 next week. And let's hope the occasion never calls for me to go all out. There'd be quite a lot of property damage, Naruto said with a straight face. Kakashi gulped. Right. Anyway, Anko, I promised to show Naruto around town. So if you could just, sure. I'd love to tag along. What's first on the docket? Anko grinned, hands on her hips. At a loss and seeing that Naruto didn't mind, Kakashi sighed. We were headed for his apartment. Lead the way, Kakashi, Anko said, informal as she was with everyone except the Hokage. The party of 3 went on towards the apartment complex where Naruto's new home was located. So what exactly is your relationship supposed to be? Naruto asked, looking between Anko and Kakashi. Kakashi coughed. We haven't actually sat down and tried to define it yet. Anko rolled her eyes. We've screwed twice. I intend to keep screwing him until he tells me to stop or I get bored. On the off chance he wants to mix in feelings and make it an actual relationship, I might be convinced to give it a try. Clear enough for you, kid? Yes, thank you, Anko-san, Naruto nodded, unfazed by her brazen language. They reached the door for Naruto's apartment. Naruto took the key the Hokage had given him and unlocked the door. The 3 entered to find an empty, aggressively medium-sized room, with 2 doors leading off into the bedroom and bathroom respectively. At least it had a window, though the view of a back alley wasn't particularly picturesque. Naruto walked in and surveyed the room. Well, it's not exactly the daimyo's palace. Still, it's clean. Yes, I think this will be quite suitable. Just needs a touch here and there. Naruto unshouldered his pack and pulled out a number of sealing scrolls. Then, without even making a hand seal, Naruto made 4 shadow clones. Anko's jaw dropped. Did he just, she sputtered as Naruto and his copies each grabbed one of the scrolls. Something I've learned even in just the brief time I've known him. Never underestimate Uzumaki Naruto, Kakashi offered as the clones unsealed a number of furniture items, plants, and other decorations. Within 10 minutes, Naruto was fully moved in. The apartment had gone from barren to looking like Naruto had been there for years. Naruto sighed as his clones dispelled, their job's done. Well, Kakashi, if you're still volunteering as my tour guide, I'd like to see the academy. Then maybe I can treat you two to lunch after a trip to the supermarket. I'm no Akimichi, but I can whip up a decent meal when the situation calls for it, Naruto said with his usual smile. Sure, we'd love that, wouldn't we, Anko? Kakashi spoke, nudging Anko out of her daze at the seamless use of an air rank jutsu. Yeah, sure kid, Anko shrugged, trying to hide how impressed she was. Kakashi led the other two through the town to the school where child soldiers were made. Some civilians found the thought of 12-year-olds fighting in wars barbaric, but they clearly had forgotten the warring clans era. Back then, as soon as you could walk, mold chakra, and hold a kunai, you were thrust out into the battlefield. Anyway, the trio reached the gate of the academy, which opened into the courtyard before reaching the actual building. Naruto was looking over the building when he noticed a girl about his age sitting in the shade of a tree with a swing hanging from one branch. She seemed to be eating a packed bento, and her whole aura radiated a resigned sadness. Not even thinking twice about it, Naruto walked over to help. Excuse me, miss. The girl flinched before looking up and letting Naruto get a good look at her face. Indigo hair and a princess cut framed a delicate heart-shaped face with soft yet refined features. Her eyes were a pale lavender with no pupil, marking her as a member of the Hyuga clan. The lack of curse seal on her forehead suggested she was from the main house. Naruto's order training let him see past the physical to divine more about her character. In an instant, he was resolved to become friends with this girl leading alone. Hello. Who are you? The girl asked, a stutter in her speech revealing itself. In a bold move, Naruto sat down next to her. I'm Uzumaki Naruto. I start classes here tomorrow. And who might you be? She eyed him with confusion, but she replied readily, Hyuga Hinata. Nice to meet you, Hinata-san. Naruto said with his usual good cheer. He held out his hand for a handshake. Still wary but well trained in manners, Hinata went to take his hand. Nice to meet you, Naruto-san. They touched and they moved their hand in the other's grip up and down a few times. Hinata inexplicably felt a rush of energy from the contact, as if Naruto's hand was a live wire feeding power directly into her system. For his part, Naruto focused more on how soft her skin felt against his. Naruto let go first, laying his hand on his thigh. So, why are you having lunch out here all alone? Naruto asked curiously. Hinata tried to ignore the goosebumps she'd gotten from something as simple as a handshake. No one wants to sit with me in the C cafeteria. So I eat out here by myself. Naruto frowned. You don't have any friends to sit with? Not one. Hinata blushed and looked down. Some are intimidated by my clan. Some make fun of my SS stutter. The rest just think I'm weird. That's too bad. But hey, maybe we can help each other out. I don't have any friends here either. So how about we sit together tomorrow? Naruto asked enthusiastically. Hinata blinked. Are you serious? Sure. You need a friend, I need a friend. So let's just be friends already. Why not, right? Naruto unleashed his sunniest smile. If why you're sure, Hinata managed after a moment trying to process this spontaneous turn in fortune. Naruto's grin got softer but no less bright. Well, then I guess tomorrow's my lucky day. No matter what else happens, I'll get to have lunch with a pretty girl. Quick as a striking snake, Naruto grabbed her hand again, lifted it to his lips, and gently kissed the back. Placing her hand back down, Naruto stood up and began to walk away. Bye, Hinata-chan. Hinata felt like her face was set to explode from how much blood was rushing to it. Fire raced through her veins. Had that actually happened? Hinata felt lightheaded and next thing she knew she was waking up to the lunch bell. She concluded in embarrassment that she'd fainted. But when she remembered why, she couldn't bring herself to care. A cute boy had kissed her. Just her hand but still. And he called her pretty. Hinata spent the rest of the day with a dreamy smile on her face. Back with Naruto, he rejoined Kakashi and Anko and had them lead him to a supermarket so he could stock up on groceries and treat them to lunch. Her guy raised by monks, you're awfully smooth, Kakashi commented teasingly. And the Hyuga clan heiress to boot. Aren't afraid you've bit off more than you can chew, brat? Anko asked with a wicked tone. Bring it on. I'm going to marry that girl, Naruto said with a straight face. Kakashi and Anko almost tripped in surprise. Say what now? Anko demanded. Isn't it a bit early to say something like that, Naruto? You just met. Kakashi pointed out. True. Doesn't change the fact I'm going to marry her. She's the yin to my yang, has a heart of gold, and is the most beautiful person I've ever laid eyes on. I'll admit, getting her father's blessing could prove challenging. I might have to become rich and/or famous to get his approval. Ah, well, I'm sure everything will work itself out, Naruto shrugged nonchalantly. Enko snorted. Well, if nothing else, brat, I'll admit you've got some serious balls. Kakashi was more inquisitive. What do you mean, the yin to your yang? I mean my yang energy cinched perfectly with her yin energy. Everyone's yin and yang are unique, even identical twins. For one to mix flawlessly with another person's opposite energy is very rare and indicative of extreme compatibility. My yang practically jumped to mix with her yin when we shook hands. So, now I'm quite certain we'll end up man and wife, if I have anything to say about it, Naruto lectured. Then he turned to Kakashi with a curious expression. Why do I have to explain this to you? Surely you felt your yin sensing with Anko-san's yang when you had intimate relations. Kakashi blushed scarlet but did get a contemplative look in his one visible eye as he processed Naruto's statement. Anko just tilted her head. You saying there's some mystical yin-yang bullshit reason why he managed to get my rocks off? Both your inner energies are extremely compatible. Granted, that doesn't necessarily mean you're star-crossed lovers. Synchronous pairs don't always mean the two are romantically compatible. Perhaps you're meant to just teach each other some essential life lesson and then go off to find your proper mates. And again, you'd certainly have a hard time finding a better candidate for the future parent of your children, Naruto shrugged. Anko and Kakashi exchanged bewildered looks. How do you even know this shit, brat? The Takubetsu Jonin demanded. Naruto shrugged. I can see your chakra, that's how. I see everyone's chakra. How is that possible without a bloodline limit like the Sharingan or Byakugan? Kakashi asked, very curious. Naruto looked conflicted for a second before continuing. I suppose there's no harm in telling you. The Hyuga and Uchiha clans have a genetic shortcut to chakra sight. The order worked out how to do it from the ground up by decades of trial and error. And from there we went on to research how to replicate other effects of Dijutsu, such as the Sharingan's prediction or the Byakugan's ability to see through solid matter. It's a major chakra drain and takes precise control, but it's possible for any chakra-trained person to get superhuman vision. Kakashi had an epiphany. The watcher that guards your temple, he's a master of the order's Dijutsu, isn't he? Indeed. The watcher for every temple is an expert at the various forms of chakra sight. It's a requirement for the position, Naruto confirmed. They reached a major supermarket for the village. The topic of yin-yang bonding and eye techniques was dropped as Kakashi and Anko watched Naruto explore the store. Aware he was on a budget, Naruto made sure to buy raw ingredients cheaply he could later cook into proper meals rather than go for processed food products or snacks. Though he did make one exception. Brat, what is with you and cup ramen? You almost bought the whole aisle. Anko asked. Ramen is my favorite food. But I've only ever had traditionally cooked ramen. These glorious cups will provide me with the succulent ambrosia after only 3 minutes in hot water. Naruto proclaimed, a near fanatic glint in his cerulean eyes. Kakashi cleared his throat. Didn't you read the nutrition label, though? You'd almost be better off eating wet cardboard. Naruto raised a brow. Then he dropped his bags to the ground and lifted the bottom of his guy to reveal his abdomen and the shredded 8-pack that called it home. Do I look like I need to worry about the occasional bit of junk food, Kakashi? Kakashi had the good sense to remain silent. And he told himself his masculinity was not so fragile that the fact a tween had a lower body fat content than him could make him feel inadequate. They returned to Naruto's apartment. Make yourselves comfortable. I'll put everything away then cook us all some lunch. Naruto said with his trademark sunny grin. He went to the corner kitchenette, summoning 2 shadow clones without a hand seal as he did. Anko sprawled on the comfy as hell Avesiad, Kakashi sitting next to her with decidedly more decorum. So by a secure location, Hokage-sama meant an order of the Horned One Temple. That's where we were hiding this kid? Anko asked bluntly. I can neither confirm nor deny details of anything pertaining to this S-rank secret without the Hokage's approval, Kakashi said by rote. That's a yes. Remember, fuck buddy, I work in torture and interrogation. Your body language tells me more than your mouth ever could, the violet-haired woman smirked. If it isn't confidential, may I ask if you ever simply ask nicely or if you go straight for electrocution and waterboarding? Naruto asked as he sliced and diced vegetables to go in the stir-fry. We always give them a chance to simply cough it up before we escalate to aggressive persuasion, Anko grinned. My personal favorite opener is you will tell me what I want to know. The choice is whether you will tell me before the pain or after. But the Yamanaka clan and their mind jutsu isn't torture an obsolete mode of getting information? Their host asked as he continued to cook. Anko was used to this question from new recruits to T&I. Every clan worth a name developed defenses against the Yamanaka clan over the past few hundred years. And they weren't the only ones to dabble in telepathy. When the hidden villages were formed, each village mixed what each clan knew to make a standardized mental defense specific to each village, including Konoha. One of the requirements for Jonin rank or knowing anything A rank or higher is being able to block a basic mind probe. That said, the Yamanaka are the best at what they do. That's why Inoichi was head of the department so long. Naruto nodded. I see. Well, that's unnecessary in my case. I feel a deep swell of pity for the poor soul who wanders into my mind looking for trouble. Anko quirked her head and turned to Kakashi. Does he know? Before Kakashi could answer, Naruto spoke up. I met Kyuubi-sen within a month of joining the order. I would describe our relationship as a positive little brother reluctantly tolerated by a jaded negative older brother. I wouldn't say he loves or even likes me, but he doesn't completely hate me either. He stopped threatening to feast on my flesh and pick his teeth with my bones, at any rate. I'm his favorite human, but that's not saying much. And if ever I'm in life or death danger, he'll chip in if only to guarantee his own continued survival. Give me time, though, and I'm sure we'll be the best of friends. Anko burst into laughter. Oh, that's rich. She kept guffawing until she ran out of air. Then she narrowed her eyes. Wait, you're serious? You think you can tame the biggest monster the world's ever known with friendship and kindness? Well, Sharingan hypnosis and long-term imprisonment didn't do the job. It's about time we all try a different tactic. Naruto flipped the contents of the wok and sprinkled in some seasonings. You know, I was going to take a look at that curse seal on your shoulder as a favor to a friend, but if you're just going to mock me and doubt my intelligence, you can leave after you're finished eating. Anko clutched her neck in shame and remembered pain. Kakashi, not sure what to do, wrapped his arm around her shoulders. Naruto, Hokage-sama and Jiraiya-sama themselves tried and failed to remove the seal. They weren't me. Not to be arrogant, but I am in Uzumaki. And no offense to Hokage Jiji or Iro Sennin, but slapping a simple level 5 containment on a level 9 curse is like slapping a finger bandage on a wound that requires multiple stitches. I've only gotten a few glimpses so far, but I'm willing to bet she feels frequent flashes of pain from the seal, isn't that right, Anko-san? Naruto asked, casually plating the meal. Anko pierced Naruto with a look of utmost desperation and hope. Get rid of this fucking tattoo from hell, and I'll do anything you want, Naruto. Deal. Now, let's not let lunch go cold. The three sat down, side-eyed Akamatsu, and began to eat. Kakashi, figuring both his tablemates had seen his face, pulled down his mask and ate at normal speed. Anko was torn between rushing through the meal or dragging it out and delaying the inevitable disappointment. Seriously, what 11-year-old was better at seals than Jiraiya of the legendary Sannin? And again, his clan were so skilled at Fuinjutsu that a multinational coalition had formed solely to destroy every trace of them. That had to mean something, right? When the last bite was chewed and swallowed, Naruto made a couple shadow clones. One cleared the table while the other fetched a couple blank scrolls, a brush, and some ink. Anko-san, stay seated and please remove your trench coat, Naruto said, his usual cheery disposition shifting to laser-like focus. Kakashi found it a bit disconcerting. Anko took off her coat, leaving her in just a fishnet top that showed she wasn't wearing a bra underneath. Naruto didn't even blink. He walked around to regard Orochimaru's curse seal of heaven and the evil containment seal Jiraiya had placed around it. He stared for a moment, eyes narrowed. Then he made hand seals in a slow, measured cadence. Sealing art. Seal copying jutsu, he said it inside volume before placing his palm over the curse seal. When he pulled his hand back, a transparent copy of the 3 tomo that made up the curse seal floated in the air below Naruto's palm. He turned to his shadow clone, helpfully holding out one of the scrolls, and placed his hand on the blank paper. As if written by a dozen invisible scribes, the full formula of the seal appeared on the scroll. Now, let's see what we're working with, Naruto muttered, carrying the scroll to an empty spot on the floor before sitting down and intently reading the details of the curse seal's makeup. Anko watched him, waiting for her fragile hopes to be fulfilled or ruined. Kakashi laid a hand on his lover's shoulder in support while he tried to read the formula himself. He knew just enough about Fuinjutsu to know the curse seal of heaven was miles above his skill level. They were silent for about 10 minutes as Naruto made his way through the formula. Well, I don't know whether to shake Orochimaru's hand or rip it off and beat him to death with it, Naruto finally said, crossing his arms with a frown. This thing is a grotesque masterpiece. It's just coherent enough to function, but he's lucky it's only a 1 in 10 mortality rate. A piece of art painted with blood and guts, framed crookedly by rusty metal and bones. In a word. Awful, in both senses of the word. Get to the point, brat. Can you get rid of it or not? Anko gritted out. I could rip it off you right now, but it'd be a coin toss whether you survived in the first place or lasted long enough to heal. This thing's wormed its way into your entire chakra network. A quick fix removal would be akin to pulling your spine out your back. Give me a couple days and I could create a counter seal that would just erase the whole thing painlessly. But before we do anything, I think we need to report to Hokage Jiji. There's a couple executive decisions he should know about before we go through with this. Such as? Kakashi asked with interest. There's three major parts to the seal. The first is the standard curse seal formula, enabling pain, subliminal suggestions, even death if it receives the proper chakra signal. The second is a storage seal full of some biological material that, from my preliminary findings, seems to trigger physical mutation, as well as a bastardized version of, I kid you not, Sage Mode. But it's the third part that's most interesting. Naruto explained with a neutral expression. Well? Spit it out already, Anko barked. You're not going to like this, Anko-san. The third part is a soul seal. You've been carrying a fragment of that maniac in your neck all this time, Naruto said with an apologetic tone. Anko turned pale as a ghost. She rushed to Naruto's bathroom, where the sound of retching reached Kakashi and Naruto. While Kakashi dithered on whether to go to her or not, Naruto called out in firm but considerate tones, Anko-san, don't you dare stab yourself with a kunai. It won't affect the seal or kill him. Calm down and come back out here so we can handle this safely and sanely. There was a moment of silence, and then Anko came back out of the bathroom, looking full of disgust and self-loathing. What is that motherfucking bastard capable of doing to me? Can he take over my body? Not at all, Naruto assured her. He was very paranoid in protecting his soul fragment, 4 different layers of defenses. Can't even communicate with the original Orochimaru or sense the surroundings of the seal. He's basically just waiting in a dark room for someone with intimate knowledge of the cursed seal to come along and extract him. Naruto frowned. From what little I know about the man, he's obsessed with immortality. It wouldn't surprise me if he left a shard in every cursed seal he ever made. Would also go a long way to explaining why he's supposedly nutty as a fruitcake. Kakashi went into command mode, pulling on his ears as an Anbu captain. We must report to Hokage-sama. It's his decision what we do about Orochimaru and the seal. Let's go. The three left Naruto's apartment and then took off for the Hokage Tower at maximum speed, sticking to the rooftops to minimize the chance of colliding with a civilian. Soon, for the second time that day, Naruto found himself waiting outside the Hokage's office. When the old man called out enter, after Kakashi knocked, the trio entered the office. The third shadow clones had vanished, but their legacy was an empty in tray. Kakashi, Naruto-kun. And you've brought Anko as well. I take it this isn't a social call. Kakashi spoke for them. Naruto is a seal master, better than Jiraiya-sama. He looked at Anko's curse seal. He broke down and analyzed it, and now we need you to decide how we should proceed. Hiruzen's face lost its grandfatherly softness and became every inch the seasoned shinobi. Explain. Given he was the expert here, Naruto took the reins. The cursed seal of heaven is a combination curse seal, storage seal, and soul seal. The curse seal is unremarkable. The storage seal contains an enzyme that acts like a chakra steroid and somehow organically triggers the mixture of the host's chakra with nature energy. In other words, it temporarily sends the affected into sage mode. And the soul seal is self-explanatory, a fraction of Orochimaru's soul is stored in the seal. I have already promised Anko-san that I would remove the seal. It's up to you how I do it, though, Hokage Jiji. Hiruzen steepled his fingers, his mind that had earned him the nickname the Professor Racing, as he considered the problem placed before him. Is there a way to remove the seal from Anko without destroying the enzyme or the soul shard? Theoretically, yes. Finding a way to do it that also has a good chance of Anko-san surviving will be tricky, though. You can't put a timeline on these kinds of projects, but I estimate that if I had a team of 24 shadow clones working around the clock, I could have a suitable extraction method by this time next week, Naruto replied dutifully. He may not technically be a ninja and under the third's command yet, but he still respected his grandfather figure enough to take the situation seriously. Hiruzen nodded. Then start working immediately. Anko, as of this moment, you're on paid medical leave. You are to be at Naruto's disposal in case he needs to examine the seal further, and your leave will extend until you're fit for duty after the seal's removal. Naruto, recognizing your aptitude for shadow clones, I expect you to prioritize developing the procedure over attending the academy. Understood? Yes, Hokage-sama, Naruto and Anko said. And what am I to do, Hokage-sama? Kakashi asked. As I recall, you're still on a mandated vacation. Do whatever legal thing you want and report back to me in 8 days' time, Hiruzen said with a hint of a smile. If there's nothing left to discuss, you're all dismissed. Naruto, Kakashi, and Anko walked out of the Hokage Tower after meeting with the Hokage to discuss Anko's curse seal. Hey, brat. Why are you being so nice to me? We just met a few hours ago and here you are doing my tattoo removal pro bono, Anko asked with narrowed eyes. Why not? Do I need a reason to do a good deed for my fellow man? Naruto asked with a blithe shrug. If something seems too good to be true in our world, you're supposed to stab it just in case, Anko retorted. I see. Well, Anko-san, we could have a very long philosophical debate whereby I attempted to make you understand why I'm so willing to do you a favor, or you could just accept that I want to help you, and the reward of doing the right thing is all the payment I need. Take your pick, Naruto said with a bright smile with just a touch of mischief. Anko stared incomprehensibly at the prepubescent blonde for a second before she burst into gales of laughter. Never change, kid. The world needs optimistic idiots like you. I take that as a compliment. Naruto glanced at the sky. What a day, and it's barely the afternoon. And last I checked, we're all free for the rest of the day. Do we part ways here or does the adventure continue? I guess I could keep playing tour guide and show you the highlights of Konoha, Kakashi mused. Let me think. There's the movie theater, the bookstore, the weapons shop, the bathhouse. Let's go have a soak. I need some scalding hot water to feel clean again after finding out that monster is renting space in my body, Anko shuddered. The bathhouse it is, Naruto grinned. He made a shadow clone who leapt for the rooftops. I'll start a research team while we're at it. How much freaking chakra do you have, kid? You make shadow clones the way I could make ordinary clones, Anko asked as they began to walk. How to put it in perspective, Naruto mused. Okay. I have more chakra than you, Kakashi, and Hokage combined. I didn't get a good look at everyone, but possibly more than everyone else in the Hokage Tower combined. But if it makes you feel better, the higher the capacity the harder it is to control it all. Anko fought hard to keep her jaw from dropping. If you have cage level reserves, why the fuck are you going to the academy tomorrow? You should go straight to Chunin or Takebetsu Jonin and then make Jonin within a year. I'm flattered you think I'm so powerful. To answer your question, 2 reasons. First, for all my training in the order, I have little to no idea what a ninja is supposed to know and learn. Second, I want to interact socially with peers my age. Hence my desire to start at the bottom and work my way up, Naruto paused before getting a dreamy smile. Make that 3 reasons. I want to be close to Hinata-chan. You're putting an awful lot of stock in a yin-yang energy compatibility, Kakashi observed. There were 3 yin-yang compatible couples at the temple, Naruto replied. They're the very models of healthy, long-lasting relationships. And you know what drinking 1000-year tea does. All 3 of their marriages are older than the village we're standing in. Kakashi rose a brow as he mentally crunched on that. I see your point. What the hell is 1000-year tea? Anko asked, never happy to be out of the loop. There's 3 beverages of choice in an order temple. Clean water, home-brewed moonshine, and 1000-year tea. Among other health benefits, the tea acts as an aging retardant. Some of the oldest masters who started drinking it as children are hundreds of years old by now, Naruto revealed. And before you ask, I don't know the recipe. And frankly, I wouldn't give it even if I did. You shinobi have your forbidden jutsu. The order has its own secrets. Fair enough, Kakashi shrugged. You seem the age you're supposed to be. I'm guessing you didn't drink much of it. Who wants to be a kid any longer than necessary? Before I decided to leave the order to become a ninja, I figured I'd wait until I was at least 15 before I started drinking it daily, Naruto said honestly. Out of curiosity, how old is Master Feng? I know he's old enough to have met the first Hokage, Kakashi asked. He's 134 as of last May, Naruto said casually. Anko's eyes were twitching. You're telling me that horns are all unaging vampires? Not unaging. Just aging much more slowly than the ordinary man does. And none of them have to consume blood either, Naruto corrected her. The conversation moved to more casual topics until they reached Konoha's world-famous hot springs. They all paid the fee, the receptionist politely asking Naruto to make sure his hair didn't get in the water. Anko went one way while Naruto and Kakashi went another, the baths being divided based on sex. Naruto quickly tied his long hair into a messy bun atop his head before disrobing and putting his clothes in his assigned locker, Kakashi doing the same. The blonde and Cyclops bathed quickly, helpfully washing each other's backs, before walking into the actual open-air hot spring. It being 1:30 on a weekday, the pool was mostly empty. The couple retirees, apparently old friends based on how they were chatting, and a handful of Konoha men enjoying a day off with a long soak. You're seriously going to wear that mask the whole time? Naruto asked his bathing companion. It's traditional. As the last Haddock, I must abide by all my clan's traditions, Kakashi shrugged. Well, you look ridiculous, the younger told his elder frankly. I've been called worse, Kakashi waved off without concern. Yo, Kakashi. One of the other men called, wading through the water towards them. Oh, hey Asuma. Didn't see you there, Kakashi greeted with a lazy wave. Who's the kid? Asuma asked once he reached them. He's capable of answering for himself. Uzumaki Naruto. Going by the family resemblance, I'm guessing you're part of Hokage's clan. Naruto said in a deadpan. Asuma eyed Naruto incredulously before bursting into laughter. I like you kid. And yeah, I'm a Sarutobi. I'm actually the old man's son. Nice to meet you. Given how familiar you were with Kakashi, I'd wager you're either a Jonin or Anbu who has worked with him before, Naruto noted. Jonin. And he was one of the 12 guardian ninja for a while there too, Kakashi supplied before Asuma could respond. Asuma nodded. That's right. Glad I quit though. You wouldn't believe how petty the squabbles can get in the daimyo's court. So, Uzumaki Naruto, huh? If memory serves right, aren't you the, container that went missing? You could say that. But thanks to Kakashi here, today's my homecoming, Naruto yawned, the hot water having a soporific soothing effect on him as it had on countless men before him. Well, welcome back to Konoha then. If it's not classified to all hell and back, where were you the last 6 years? Asuma asked, taking position on the other side of Naruto, his right side occupied by Kakashi. Order of the Horned One. Now I'm back to be the best ninja I can be. Maybe even take the hat from Hokage one day. Or, let's be honest, his successor. He can't have that many years left in him, Naruto mused. Yeah, you're right. But is there any better death for a shinobi than old age? That merits a monument. Whole world should gaze up at it in awe, Asuma sighed. Anyway, good luck in getting the hat, kid. Many have tried. Many have failed. You try, you fail, you try, you fail. But the only true failure is to stop trying, Naruto quoted before lowering a few more inches into the water. True enough. But sometimes it's unbearably hard to get up and try that one last time, Kakashi reflected. That's how you know it's imperative to push through to victory. But this is getting a bit deep for a daytime bath. Kakashi's coping mechanisms are reading adult literature in public, being constantly tardy, and staring for hours at the memorial stone. What's your way of staying sane in this crazy world we live in, Asuma-san? Naruto asked politely. The two Jonin looked askance at Naruto for a moment. Kakashi chuckled and returned to enjoying the hot spring. Asuma shrugged. Nicotine and sex. I'm faithful when I'm with a girl, but most civilians can't keep up with me. So go for a kunoichi, Naruto said like it was obvious. You mean a woman who can castrate me with most common household objects? But you have a point there, kid. Got my eyes on this fine red-eyed Takebetsu. Just working out the best way to ask her out for a first date. Naruto tilted his head as if listening to someone far away. Showing up at her front door uninvited is too forward. And slipping it into casual conversation will make her think you aren't taking her seriously. If I were you, I'd bump into her at her favorite store, strike up a talk about your common interests, then invite her for a cup of coffee or bite to eat. Getting a second date is up to you, lady killer. Asuma blinked. That actually sounds like it might work. How's a guy without pubic hair yet know how to woo a woman? I don't. The female voice inside my brain does, Naruto said honestly. Luckily, Asuma took it as a joke. The three males chewed the fat for about 20 minutes before Asuma said the heat was getting to him and made his exit. Kakashi side-eyed Naruto. I suppose it's up to you who you tell, but you came awfully close to telling Asuma about Kushina-san. As a member of the order, I am bound to always speak honestly, Naruto said solemnly. But don't tell me you never deceived someone by only telling parts of the truth. If I'm asked a direct question, I'll reply forthright. Otherwise, I'll keep my secrets as best I can. Naruto squinted. Anko-sen's getting out. We shouldn't keep her waiting. Kakashi nodded before what Naruto said actually processed in his mind. Wait, you can see through the divider. We talked earlier about chakra sight, why are you so surprised? Naruto asked in confusion. So you've been peeping on the women's side this whole time? Kakashi asked incredulously. Might I remind you I met the future mother of my children earlier today? I'm only interested in seeing her naked, I could care less about other women, Naruto stated plainly. After a beat though, Naruto blushed and admitted that being said, there's nothing wrong with appreciating the aesthetic value of the female form. Kakashi's smug smirk was visible even through his mask. No arguments here, Naruto. Come on, let's get out of here. Or the male form for that matter, Naruto continued as he walked with Kakashi back to the locker room. Kakashi raised his brow. You swing both ways. I swing all ways. I identify as pansexual, Naruto answered as he let his hair down. So, what, you're turned on by everyone? Kakashi asked dubiously. That's omnisexual. Pansexual, one way to describe it is hearts, not parts. I couldn't care less whether my partner has a penis, a vagina, both, or neither. What matters is if our personalities match. Having met Hinata-chan, I'll probably end up in your standard heterosexual relationship. But on the off chance I meet someone else I'm yin-yang compatible with, it could be anyone or anything. All I'll care about is whether Hinata-chan is open to making our couple a trio, Naruto explained as he dried off and put his clothes back on. Kakashi mulled that over. So you believe in non-monogamous relationships? Polyamory. I believe that love is love, so long as it stays healthy. And there's no rule that says two people are only allowed to love each other. It requires a great deal of communication and trust, but I've heard of romantic relationships throughout the order's history that were less than traditional. The master of the Earth Temple has 4 wives. The Lightning Temple had an all-male trio that cracked how to make same-sex pregnancy possible about a century ago. You get the idea. But this is all on the unlikely chance I meet another person my inner energies click with. It's rare to meet just one, let alone 2 or more. Naruto winced and rubbed his temple. Who said something? Kakashi asked with concern. Mom and Dad. Both want me to build a harem of busty kunoichi and give them dozens of grandchildren. They use the excuse I'm one of the last Uzumaki and I need to repopulate the clan. Dad's already got over 100 baby names ready and Mom just gushes about how her little Prince Charming deserves every decent girl to bow at his feet. I am definitely finding a way to blind them or extract them before I become sexually active. They'd probably try to give me advice mid-coitus. Naruto shuddered. Kakashi nodded in complete sympathy. Yeah, that's the kind of parental teachings you don't want or need. On any level. They walked out of the building to see Anko waiting as patiently as she could just outside. So, how was it soaking in water that was at least 10% ball sweat? Quite enjoyable, Naruto said back, without an ounce of sarcasm. Feel better? Kakashi asked the Takubetsu. Much. So what if the fucker left a chunk of that black soul of his inside me? Once the brat extracts it while removing the seal, I'll finally get the chance to work out my frustrations on the cocksucker. Anko chirped with a grin that would terrify young children and most adults. Well, alright then, Kakashi grinned, happy his lover, and if Naruto was to be believed, soulmate, was out of her funk. Now then, I heard a new copy of Icha Icha came out this week. Next stop on our wandering tour of Konoha. The bookstore. The trio walked to the biggest bookstore in the village. Kakashi and Anko shamelessly went to the 18+ section while Naruto browsed the bestseller aisle. He'd read plenty of poetry and historic epics in the order, but he hadn't had the chance to read modern fiction. He picked a couple books that seemed promising and joined his two companions at the checkout counter. They wandered aimlessly throughout the village the rest of the day, Kakashi and Anko pointing out local landmarks for Naruto's benefit. They didn't talk anymore about the seal, just focusing on enjoying a nice walk through the town. Naruto's stomach gave an audible gurgle. I guess it's dinner time, he observed. You like ramen, right, brat? Follow me. I know a good spot, Anko said, the sky turning orange over their heads. Naruto and Kakashi followed the kunoichi to a food stand not too far from their apartment building. The flaps over the entrance declared it Ramen Ichiraku. A middle-aged man and a 20-something girl wore white uniforms and welcoming smiles. Thanks for choosing Ramen Ichiraku. What can we get you? The chef asked politely. Large miso for me, Anko ordered. Kakashi sat down after glancing at the menu. Extra large shrimp with a fried egg, please. And for you? The girl asked Naruto, who seemed like he was debating a life or death decision. Oh, so many flavors to try, how can I decide? You know what, just give me a small bowl of everything on the menu. Naruto finally said enthusiastically. The chef smirked. A connoisseur with a big appetite. My favorite kind of customer. As the two cooks got to work, the trio made small talk. Naruto literally had to wipe drool from his mouth at the aroma of cooking ramen. In due time, the orders were ready. The Mitarashi, Haddock and Uzumaki broke their chopsticks, said the customary prayer, and dug in. Hot damn. I forget how good this place is. I love dango, but this really hits the spot. Anko said in appreciation. Just because Kakashi was eating too fast to be seen didn't mean he wasn't savoring. This is gourmet. This is worthy of the daimyo's table. Naruto looked like he'd achieved gustatory nirvana. It's as if the broth were made from angel's tears. This is the single most delicious meal I've ever had the privilege to consume. The father-daughter pair, Ichiraku Tuchi and Am, smiled and bowed. Please enjoy. They all finished eating eventually, Naruto practically inhaling each bowl. They each paid their share and left, with Naruto promising to return at least once a week. They arrived at Naruto and Kakashi's apartment building. Well, this was an action-packed first day in Konoha. I think I'll meditate an hour or two then call it a night. What about you two? Kakashi was about to reply when he distinctly felt Anko grope his ass. Your sorta big brother and I are going to practice making you an uncle, brat, Anko said in a decidedly good mood. We are? Kakashi asked, a certain part of his anatomy making its approval of this plan perfectly clear. Naruto is going to get rid of this fucking seal. You're the one who brought him here. I'm going to take you until you beg for mercy twice. I never beg, Kakashi said in token protest. Twice, Anko hissed with sinful promise. Naruto didn't blink at the seduction happening before his virgin eyes. One of the things the order stressed was to accept any and all forms of love. If it brought happiness to the world without hurting anyone, it couldn't be bad, right? Well, have fun you two. Good night. And then Naruto went to his apartment. It had been taken over by the research team, the 24 shadow clones, talking up almost all the floor space as they puzzled out how to neutralize the cursed seal of heaven without destroying its contents. Naruto took a piss, went to his bedroom, laid out his outfit for tomorrow, put his dirty clothes in the hamper, and sat in the lotus position on his bed in the simple cotton shorts he slept in. After 6 years in the Order of the Horned One, meditation was as essential to his well-being as the air he breathed. When he had sat in inner peace for a good amount of time, Naruto got under the covers and waited for sleep to claim him. He woke with the dawn, not needing an alarm clock, as his subconscious mind sensed the shift in energies as sunlight banished the dark of night. In the order, the debate raged as to why there was a distinct difference between an area lit by moonlight and starlight versus one lit by sunlight. Naruto didn't particularly care about that mystery. He got dressed and went to the kitchen table. One of his shadow clones had been thoughtful enough to make him breakfast and pack his lunch. He ate sedately and then went to the front door. He looked back at the research team. They'd last a good 2 to 3 days before dispelling from running out of chakra. "See you, boys. See you, boss," chorused those who'd heard him through their concentration on their job, the sole purpose for which they'd been created. Naruto walked out of the apartment building, pausing when he reached the street. "You're not a horn anymore, Naruto, you're a ninja. Information is a weapon. So you better get more than the other guy or girl will have when it comes down to it." With a thought, Naruto made 3 shadow clones. One turned into a pigeon and took flight, multiplying into a large flock as it did so. The second turned into a rat and scurried for the nearest alley before making more shadow clone rats. The third turned into a random civilian in his late teens and went for the Konoha library to begin the process of reading every book and scroll in the building. For whatever reason, it took surprisingly little chakra to use the transformation jutsu and alter one's body into a temporary new shape. The catch was giving yourself wings didn't mean you knew how to fly. Plus turning into something inanimate carried the risk of death if you did it wrong. Most shinobi stuck to simple human disguises rather than morph into a non-humanoid. And of course there was the cost of maintaining the transformation, but that had never been a problem for Naruto and his absurd chakra levels. Naruto walked calmly to the academy, nodding politely at the few passerby up this early. On entering the academy courtyard, Naruto eyed the swing on the tree where he'd met Hinata. Figuring it'd be more fun than just standing there waiting for the school to open, Naruto went over and sat on the swing. He started to rock forward and back, enjoying the simple delights of the suspended seat. Around 7:30 by Naruto's estimation, a young man with a scar across his nose in standard Konoha shinobi uniform for Chunin and Jonin appeared in a blur of body flicker. He was headed for the doors when he noticed Naruto. "Who are you? What are you doing here?" Naruto jumped off the swing and approached the ninja roughly the same age as Kakashi. "I'm Uzumaki Naruto. The Hokage said I'd be joining the graduating class today." In an instant, the man's face became closed off and guarded. "Oh right. The special case." Naruto repressed the urge to sigh. "Let's get this out of the way. I'm not the Kyuubi in human form. I'm just the guy the fourth wrote the prison seal on and then he shoved the Kyuubi inside it. To blame me for his actions is akin to blaming a scroll for the blood on the kunai it stores. If you think about it, I protect Konoha with every breath I take, acting as his container and keeping him from escaping. Instead of being reviled, I should be revered. But then, people are rarely so logical when dealing with the pain of loss, fear of the unknown, or the blinding power of hate. The point I'm trying to make is I'm Naruto, not the fox. Please treat me as you would any other student." The ninja frowned in thought. "That actually makes a lot of sense, okay. You're nothing but my new student. You mean Iruka-sensei to you. I'll be your primary teacher until graduation. Pleased to meet you, Iruka-sensei. Would you please show me to our classroom?" Naruto said with his best manners. "Sure." Iruka unlocked the front doors and then walked through the building to the proper classroom. Naruto thanked his new teacher and then went for the seat in the back row next to the window. From there, he'd be able to see the chalkboard, his fellow students, and the village outside to some degree. Iruka sat at the desk in the front of the room and graded some homework by the looks of it. Naruto simply enjoyed the view. Another Chunin walked in the room about 15 minutes later. Naruto looked at him and felt his caution rise as he observed how much negative energy was in the man's aura. Judging a person purely on how much positivity and negativity they held was an inexact science. Just because this man was almost as dark as the soul shard of Orochimaru Naruto had seen in Anko's seal yesterday didn't necessarily mean he was a bad guy. But there was no harm in keeping his guard up around him, was there? "Hey, Iruka," the man said. He glanced at Naruto. "Who's the kid? Don't think I've seen him around before." "Hey Mizuki. That's the student Hokage-sama ordered to join the class as of today. Uzumaki Naruto, remember?" Naruto didn't need to be trained in chakra sight to see the flash of pure hatred that crossed Mizuki's face before it was expertly masked. Full of negative energy and a Kyuubi hater. Not a good combination for Naruto if the man ever decided to act on his feelings. He'd definitely be keeping an eye on this guy. But at the moment, they'd not even met yet properly. Best to act nice. "Good morning, Mizuki-sensei. I hope to learn much from you and Iruka-sensei." Mizuki gave a very convincing smile. "Always good to get a new student. I hope you're fast on your feet because we aren't going to take it easy on you just because it's your first day." "I'll do my best," Naruto grinned. Naruto spent the next half hour patiently waiting as Iruka and Mizuki discussed the lesson plan for the day. Students began to trickle in around 8 o'clock. Naruto carefully observed and made a mental file for each of his peers as they arrived. At around 8:20, Hinata came in. Naruto immediately waved. "Yo, Hinata-chan. Come sit with me." Hinata seemed to eat and do some odd nervous gesture with her hands, not to mention turning almost tomato red. But she walked up the steps to take the seat next to Naruto nonetheless. Hello, Naruto-san," she said, glancing at his face for a second before looking down at the desk. Naruto found her shyness adorable. "You can use kun with me if you want, Hinata-chan. Or just call me by name." "I really don't mind," Naruto said to start with. Hinata gulped but got a tiny little smile. Oh okay, Naruto-kun. We're still on to sit together at lunch, right?" Naruto checked, since there was every chance she changed her mind. "Why yes. I'd like that very much," Hinata said, blushing so much her face looked like a ripe apple. "Great, Dadabeo." "Oh, sorry, I have this verbal tic. I know it's a nonsense word, but I can't help but say it when I'm excited," Naruto said, scratching the back of his head while grinning self-deprecatingly. I don't mind," Hinata said, feeling herself relax a little. The fact Naruto had a speech oddity like herself made him seem more approachable. "Today's my first day. I know it's halfway through the school year. So I hope you don't mind helping me if I get a question I can't answer. On the off chance you get asked a question you don't know but I do, I'll tell you. Sound fair?" Naruto asked. "Yes," Hinata agreed readily. A dark part of her whispered that he was only being nice, so she'd help him get good grades, but she tried to ignore it. Naruto practically radiated goodness. The idea of him doing something so underhanded just didn't fit in Hinata's mind. "So, all I know about you is that you're exquisitely beautiful but have no friends. And all you know about me is that I'm the new guy. How about we take turns asking each other a question and we're not allowed to lie? You up for it?" Naruto grinned. Hinata felt herself come close to fainting when she heard Naruto call her beautiful, but she managed to push through. "Oh okay," she nodded. "You can go first." "Okay. What's your favorite thing to eat?" Naruto asked. "Cinnamon rolls," Hinata replied right away, not even having to think about it. "Got it. Now I know what to make you for dessert." "You go now," Naruto said. "Why did you want to be friends with me?" Hinata asked. Naruto chuckled. "Lots of reasons. On a purely aesthetic level, you're radiant. I want to see you as much and as often as I can to appreciate your gorgeous face. Platonically, I like to make friends with everyone I meet who's open to it. The fact you had no friends also made me want to fix that as soon as possible. And romantically, I'm incredibly attracted to you. I know we're a bit young, but I'd very much want to be not just your friend, but your boyfriend. That's about it." Hinata felt like someone had replaced her blood with gasoline and she'd just swallowed a lit match. She could barely process what she just heard. It was like a happy ending out of a fairy tale, the noble prince riding in on his steed to sweep the princess off her feet. And Hinata was, technically, the heiress of the Hyuga clan. That was kind of like a princess. Oh. Naruto sensed he was laying it on a bit thick and Hinata was having trouble taking it all. He decided to go for a light topic. "My turn. Favorite leisure activity?" "Hey, knitting," Hinata said once her blood drained a little from her face. Before Naruto could prompt her, she asked why are you in this class? Did you transfer from another hidden village or something? Naruto shrugged. The short answer is I asked Hokage to be in this class and he made it happen. The long answer is I left the village 6 years ago to join the Order of the Horned One. I left the temple to return here to become a ninja just yesterday. Hokage wanted to make me do an assessment and then join the ranks, but I wanted to experience a shinobi education with kids my own age instead of working with a bunch of strangers older than me. He likes me for some reason, so Hokage assigned me to the academy. Call Hokage-sama Jiji. Hinata gaped. Yeah. He doesn't mind. Anyway, back to me. What's one thing you want to happen before you die? Hinata considered it, slowly cooling down. Hear my father say I am proud of you. B but that's never going to happen. Naruto frowned, reaching out to take Hinata's hand to give a comforting squeeze. Never say never. If one thing is certain it's that nothing is certain. It might not be today or tomorrow, but there's no reason he won't say that someday in the future. Hinata gulped, feeling her heart lift at his sincere encouragement and be set afire at feeling his hand in hers again. Like yesterday, it felt like Naruto's warm, rough, gentle hand was injecting pure energy into her system. What is this sensation when we touch? She asked a tad breathlessly. I feel it too. It's my yang energy sensing with your yin energy. I learned in the order that sensed couples almost always end up falling in love with each other. It's why I'm so certain that you're the right girl for me even though we just met, Naruto explained. Hinata felt almost rapturous at the thought of a guarantee that this boy was meant to be hers as surely as she was meant to be his. But a dark cloud of doubt came over her mind. So that's the only reason you all like me? Our chakras fit together? Naruto frowned. You're thinking about it wrong. It's not that we're soulmates because we're in sync. We're in sync because we're soulmates. If you and I had never felt our energies come together, we still would have been a guy and a girl. Given enough time together, there would have been a very high chance we ended up together without any special reason besides general romance. The sensing is more our bodies telling us what they think about each other. It's not like we're slaves to our instincts. Everything is a choice. You could decide never to say another word to me and go on to marry anyone you want. But your yin likes my yang, so there's a good chance that I'm the best match you're ever likely to find, and vice versa. Naruto let go, cutting the sink off. If you want to change seats, I'd understand. I've dropped a lot of information on you in just a few minutes. Hinata was silent for a minute in indecision. Luckily, the voice in her heart proved louder than her self-doubt. She reached out and took Naruto's hand in hers again. If my chakra trusts you, then I trust you. Let's give this a shot. She didn't stutter once. Naruto's answering smile was blinding in its intensity. Like I said, we're a bit young. But if you don't mind, how about we start dating? I'd love to, Naruto-kun, Hinata said with a grin that made her positively heartbreaking. At that point the bell rang, popping their intensely intimate bubble and reminding them they were students in a classroom. Naruto and Hinata turned to face the front of the classroom, though they kept holding hands beneath the table. Good morning, class, Iruka stated, standing at the front of the classroom with all the authority of his position as an academy sensei. For lecture today, we'll be reviewing the Third Shinobi War and Konoha's part in it. But first, we have a new student. Naruto, please come down. Naruto gave Hinata's hand a comforting squeeze before letting go and standing up. He walked down the steps to Iruka, his ears picking up confused whispers among his classmates. Iruka addressed the class. Naruto here has been given special permission by Hokage-sama to join our class, despite the fact the year is well underway. Iruka turned to Naruto. Introduce yourself with your name, age, and why you want to be a shinobi. Yes, Iruka-sensei, Naruto acquiesced. The Order journeyman turned to face the class. Hello to you all. I am Uzumaki Naruto, I turned 12 on Monday, and I want to be a shinobi so I can work to make the world a better place for everyone. Please take good care of me. He bowed at the waist. You may recall in first year that when you introduced yourselves, the class was allowed to ask you 3 questions. We'll do the same for Naruto. I will select 3 of you at random to each ask 1 question. Iruka flicked his eyes around the room before landing on a student. Shino. Why are you in this class? The Aburam clan heir asked. To become a proud shinobi of Konoha, of course, Naruto replied with a beaming smile. Iruka was about to pick the next person when Shino raised his hand. Yes, Shino. I fear I misworded my question. Why? Because there was a misunderstanding. I meant, why are you in this class when my insects inform me you are stronger than my father? The bug user clarified. That caused a stir. Everyone knew how strong a clan head was in Konoha. Naruto scratched the back of his head in embarrassment. Well, I wanted to experience the life of an academy student. I could have just been inducted as a shinobi and learned what I didn't know about the ninja lifestyle from a tutor. Instead, I wanted to come here and be with all of you, learning and training and bonding, like any other Konoha boy my age. I see, Shino said, showing no emotion on what little of his face was visible. Moving on, Iruka said. He looked over the class before going on impulse. Ami. How did you get such long, beautiful hair? The Kunoichi in training asked, mixed awe and jealousy in her tone. The genes, channeling chakra to my scalp to reinforce my roots, and a wash with a potent hair tonic once a week, Naruto told her readily. Iruka looked for the last student to pick on. Sasuke. The last, loyal, Uchiha looked with intense dark eyes at Naruto. Have you ever killed before? Iruka was about to veto that dark question, but Naruto was already answering. I've slaughtered animals for meat before. I've yet to take a human life. I hope I never have to, but if it comes down to it, well, you know what they say. Ninja don't win or lose, they survive or die. That'll be all. Naruto, go sit back down and we will begin with today's lesson, Iruka ordered. Naruto went back up towards Hinata, keeping half an eye on Uchiha Sasuke. So, brother of my soul, we meet once again in our new forms, he mused. He shook his head of such thoughts as his reincarnating older brother and simply focused on being a dutiful academy student. He summoned an empty notebook and pen from the storage seals he tattooed on his palms and took notes with his left hand as Iruka-sensei began the lecture, his right curled around Hinata's left. He was lucky to be ambidextrous. There were 2 periods in the morning at the academy, a lunch period and then 3 periods in the afternoon. The first period was Iruka's promised lecture on the Third Shinobi War. For the second period, Mizuki took the reins and led them all to the training yard behind the academy building for weapon throwing practice. They all joined one of 3 lines and attempted to hit the target with 5 kunai and 5 shuriken. Naruto patiently waited for his turn. When he got to the front, he picked up a kunai in his right hand and a shuriken star in his left. Well, here's hoping I have beginner's luck, he mused to himself. Then he carefully and methodically threw each kunai and shuriken at the target. He got one bull's-eye by blind luck, the rest barely hitting the target at all. "Sorry, Naruto-kun," Hinata said when Naruto joined her with the students who'd already gone. "It's no trouble, Hinata-chan. I just need to get some practice in," Naruto said with his customary smile. The bell rang a little after the last student had gone, Iruka-sensei calling out break for lunch. Naruto let Hinata guide him through the academy building to the cafeteria. They found a currently empty table and sat down side by side, pulling out their bento. They began to eat, their hands still clutching each other. "So, I take it your father is hard on you?" Naruto asked gently after the first few bites had been made in peaceful silence. Hinata looked down. "He thinks I'm unworthy of being the clan heiress. He favors my little sister. He says Hanabi was born lucky. He says I was lucky to be born." Naruto winced. Ouch. No child wants to hear that from their parent. "I'm so sorry, Hinata-chan." "It's not your fault, Naruto-kun," Hinata said with a small but heartfelt grin. At that moment, Aburame Shino walked up to them. "May I sit with you?" he asked in his usual dull albeit polite tone. Naruto looked to Hinata and she gave a hesitant nod. "Of course, Shino-san," Naruto told the other student. "Thank you." Taking his place on Naruto's left on the bench, Shino pulled out his own bento and began to eat. "So, Shino-san, why did you want to sit with me and Hinata-chan?" Naruto asked, eyeing the rest of the cafeteria and the many openings at other tables. "I feel I should stay close to you, befriend you if possible." "Why?" "Because you are the most powerful human I've yet to meet." Shino paused and then admitted also, "My insects find your chakra particularly fulfilling. They wish to be near you to have easier access." Naruto lifted his hand, where he could see 3 Kakechu resting on the back. "Is that why these guys have been following me around? I'm their new favorite flavor." "Their conclusion is accurate," Shino said formally. "I hope you are not bothered by my insects feeding on you. I have commanded them only to take what you will not notice missing. Hey, I have more chakra than I know what to do with. If your bugs want to snack on some, I don't mind at all," Naruto shrugged with a grin. "And sure, we can be friends if you want. The more the merrier, right?" At that moment, Inuzuka Kiba, his ninja hound Akamaru resting on his head, sat down across from Naruto and Hinata uninvited. "Hey, new kid," Kiba said with a feral grin. "Hello, Kiba-san. And Akamaru-san as well. May we help you?" Naruto asked with a raised brow. "According to Shino and Akamaru, you're pretty strong. And my mom always told me to run with the alpha when you can. So I figure I'd hang around you for a while, see if you're all you're cracked up to be," the brash clan heir explained as he dug into his food. Akamaru barked. "Yes, I do like dogs, Akamaru-san. I also like cats and most other animals kept as pets as well, though," Naruto replied to the puppy. That got Kiba's attention. "Wait, you speak dog?" "I understand dog. I lack the proper vocal cords to speak it. Your clan are hardly the only ones in the world to crack the trick to translating animal tongues, Kiba-san," Naruto explained patiently. "So where'd you learn how to do it?" Kiba asked with genuine interest. "Where I learned most everything I know." "The Order of the Horned One," Naruto said to Kiba, Shino and Hinata eagerly listening as well. "You're a horn. What are you doing here?" "Oh, and we'd like to sit here please," Chaoji asked from next to the table, Nara Shikamaru behind him with a bored expression. Naruto glanced at Hinata. She saw his look and gave a cautious nod. She was used to lunch utterly alone. Now they seemed to be attracting half their class. "Sit down Chaoji-san, Shikamaru-san. And to answer your questions, I left the order to come here to Konoha to be a shinobi," Naruto spelled out. "You've been in the order? Is that where you gained your strength?" Shino asked, pausing in his meal. "Yes, Shino-san. I entered an ordinary untrained 6-year-old, I left the man I am now. And I've already explained why I'm in the academy as opposed to already in the ninja corps," Naruto answered. Chaoji looked up from his Akamichi-sized bento. "Are you really stronger than Shino's dad?" Naruto shrugged. "I have more chakra than him and I'm well trained in combat. I'm not certain I'd win a bout with Aburame-san in real life though." "And how did an 11-year-old get more chakra than a jonin and clan head?" Shikamaru asked pointedly, looking vaguely interested instead of completely bored. "The way anyone gets anything in this world. Blood, sweat and tears. Though I will admit to having a few advantages others don't, such as my clan heritage," Naruto shrugged. "What clan?" "I've never heard of the Uzumaki clan." Yamanaka Ino asked, sitting down between Chaoji and Kiba uninvited, her eyes alight with curiosity. "We're not from the land of fire and we were rendered almost extinct during the Second Shinobi War. But make no mistake, Ino-san, the Uzumaki clan are nothing to sneeze at. We're cousins to the Senju, which is why Konoha had a strong alliance with our village, Uzushio." So much so, in fact, that when Uzushio was destroyed in the war before Konoha reinforcements could arrive, Konoha changed its sigil to incorporate the Uzushio spiral in memory of the village's destruction and the crippling blow dealt to the Uzumaki, Naruto lectured before taking another bite of his bento. Dibba blinked. No shit. Your clan is the reason we have that little whirlpool in the middle of the leaf symbol. That is correct, Naruto confirmed. Ino's eyes kept flicking between Naruto and Hinata with a widening smile on her face. You and Hinata seem awfully friendly, Naruto-kun. There's a reason for that. She's my girlfriend, Naruto replied for them, sensing Hinata's social anxiety was high with so many people at their table. Really? Is that so? Best of luck then, you two. There goes my plan B, Ino sighed. Naruto, who'd have to be blind to have missed the fangirling over his soul brother most of the class's female population engaged in, made a couple deductions. I see. You were hoping I could be a consolation prize in the event you failed to nab Sasuke-san. Should I feel flattered? Before Ino could answer, Hinata slammed her right palm on the table, drawing attention to her. The veins around her eyes bulged from her active Byakugan. Hands. Off, she said, every inch the heiress of a proud ancient clan as she stared Ino down. Shocked to see such aggression from the ordinarily meek Hyuga, Ino held up her hands in surrender. You can have him, Hinata. Sasuke-kun's the one for me, you know that. Hinata deactivated her Byakugan and returned to eating, though her left hand clutched Naruto's like a lifeline. Naruto was proud of his girl standing up to defend their relationship. The seven tweens settled down, chatting and eating, Naruto the main subject of interest, but ordinary academy woes and gossip leaking in every now and then. It was far from the intimate lunch with her boyfriend Hinata had hoped for, but she found herself enjoying the meal nonetheless. It was such a delight to see Naruto making new friends, his whole aura lighting up as one person after another pledged their companionship to him. By the end of lunch, Naruto had forged bonds with almost every clan heiress in the village. Not bad for an hour's casual work. The third period that day was another lecture, this time on anatomy. The fourth period was jutsu practice, the jutsu of the day being the replacement jutsu. The fifth and last period was the most exciting, being Taijutsu spars among the class. Everyone went out to the training yard and waited for their name to be called. Finally, at the end of the class, Iruka called Naruto vs Sasuke. Naruto stepped into the chalk-outlined ring and faced the Uchiha heir. He calmly got into his preferred stance as the Ravenet did the same. When Iruka called out begin, Sasuke rushed forward, taking the offensive. Naruto blocked every attack, making no move to counter or make his own charge. After a solid minute of fending off Sasuke, Naruto seemed to double in speed and flipped and pinned his opponent out of nowhere. Iruka called out victory. Naruto. Sasuke picked himself up, an incredulous expression on his face. He never lost. Naruto turned to regard him with a neutral expression. How did I beat you? The blonde asked the Uchiha. Sasuke grit his teeth. You were too fast, he finally ground out. Remember that. No matter how desperately you believe you're in the right, you can fail all the same. Against a better opponent, the only real options are to flee or surrender. So take a minute to be honest with yourself before you go charging off half-cocked after Itachi. Just some helpful advice. Sasuke clenched his jaw, dusted himself off, and made for the exit to the academy, the last bell conveniently ringing as he walked away. Naruto walked hand in hand with Hinata to the front courtyard, where a tall branch house Hyuga was standing waiting to escort Hinata back to her clan estate. Naruto parted with another kiss on the back of her hand, Hinata blushing prettily as she walked over to her escort. Naruto withstood the piercing glare of said escort and knew without having to spy on it that Hinata's father would be made aware of this budding romance. Hopefully most of the heat would fall on Naruto, not Hinata. Naruto walked from the academy to the training grounds. He used his sensing skills to pick one empty, walking until he stood at the center of a grass clearing in the vast forest the first Hokage had made to protect the village. Then he focused his chakra along familiar lines and created 5 shadow clones. You know what to do, he said simply. Shadow Clone 1 made 499 shadow clones of his own. They then split into 5 groups of 100, each focusing on converting their chakra into one of the 5 elemental chakras. They'd long since passed the leaf exercise for their respective elements, so they had to get creative with what they had. Shadow Clone 2 made 499 shadow clones as well. They all immediately began to fight each other, summoning all manner of weapons using jutsu or their storage seals as they engaged in a battle royale. The last one standing would dispel, and then Naruto would recreate all 500 of them all over again. It was a great way to get battle experience. Shadow Clone 3 made 499 shadow clones, and then each clone made a handful of kunai or shuriken. They'd spend hours practicing with the thrown weapons until they could hit a bullseye while running at full speed past the target. Shadow Clone 4 made 499 shadow clones with a simple thought. Then the 500 copies all went into the meditative position and focused on sensing and integrating natural energy into their chakra. If any of the shadow clones went overboard and absorbed enough natural energy to be turned to stone, they would dispel, and the energy be dispersed among the hundreds of other clones. There was little to no risk to Naruto himself. Shadow Clone 5 sat down and then laid back on the ground, enjoying the afternoon sunlight. His job was to restore his chakra stores to full and then dispel last in order to stretch Naruto's chakra coils and increase his reserves even further. The original Naruto took off his top and began his typical stretching routine. One of the only things shadow clones couldn't help with was physical conditioning. If Naruto wanted to get stronger, faster, or gain more endurance, he had to work for it himself. After he'd finished warming up each major muscle group, Naruto turned to his right wrist and the gravity seal he'd inscribed there. It was currently set at 1.0. Let's try and really go for it today. I took yesterday completely off, after all, Naruto thought aloud. With a thought and surge of chakra, the number changed to 10.0, even though his previous personal best was 8.5. Naruto endured the sensation of gravity's pull on his body, going up an order of magnitude. Then, an eager grin on his face, he started a blistering, challenging physical exercise routine he'd developed over the years, with guidance from his teachers in the order. The next 4 hours passed in a blur, Naruto's body almost going on autopilot as he stopped thinking and focused totally on movement. He replaced the second group of shadow clones after each victor dispelled. Otherwise, he only engaged in testing his body to its physical limits. When the sun had set and the stars were shining overhead, Naruto figured enough was enough. Time. Dispel 25 at a time, we've been over this. His shadow clones dispelled in groups so as to minimize the strain on his mind from processing all their memories once they vanished. When Naruto was alone in the training ground, Naruto nodded. He was full of energy despite his hours of hard labor due to his fifth shadow clone, filling him with as much chakra as he'd had when he woke up that morning. His body would process the increase by the time he woke up. Naruto walked back to his apartment, opening the door and spotting, through the hustle and bustle of his research team, a hot meal on the kitchen table, as well as a couple envelopes. I have mail already? He wondered out loud as he shuffled through the room to the table. First things first, he said before attacking the nutritious dinner. Washing his own dishes and putting them away, Naruto went for the messages he'd received. The first was a letter from Kakashi. Hey Naruto. Knew you'd be at the academy all day so I figured I'd leave this note. I'm spending the next few days training and I regularly book training ground 7 most days of the week. Ever feel like a friendly spar, working out a new technique together or, hell, teaching this old dog some new tricks, feel free to come. P.S. Danko-chan says you can pop in on her whenever you want to work on the seal. If she's not at her favorite dango stand she'll be at her apartment. The addresses of both locations were given at the end of the postscript. Ooh, a training buddy. That has possibilities, Naruto grinned. He grabbed the second envelope and felt immediately that it was a higher quality paper than standard. Opening it, Naruto pulled out an invitation card embossed with what he'd bet his left nut was real gold. You are cordially invited to a formal dinner at the Hyuga clan estate with clan head Hyuga Hiashi and family. Dinner to be held at 6 p.m. Friday evening. No confirmation necessary. Naruto blew out a breath. Meeting the future father-in-law tomorrow so he can decide whether I'm worthy of his daughter's hand. I better bring my A-game. Figuring that to worry was to suffer twice, Naruto put the thought of how many ways the formal dinner could go wrong aside in favor of washing the cooling sweat off his body. Once he'd bathed and had a luxuriously long soak, he meditated before going to bed before midnight. Early to bed, early to rise, etc. Naruto woke up with the dawn, got dressed and had breakfast. He had the research team all pop at once, processed the headway they made, then replaced them with new shadow clones. He walked out of the apartment complex and to the academy, ready to take on whatever the day threw at him. Naruto got to the academy courtyard before Iruka. Shrugging, Naruto settled himself in the shade of the swing tree and began to meditate. He stirred only when he sensed Iruka's chakra signature inbound. He got up, exchanged a cordial greeting with his sensei, and went to sit at his preferred seat in the proper classroom. Students came in sporadically as the 8:30 bell loomed nearer. Hinata came in about 10 minutes before and all but ran up to sit next to Naruto. Did you get the invitation? She asked worriedly, holding Naruto's hand in both of hers. Yes, I did. Impressive work on such short notice, Naruto said cheerily. Hinata hung her head. I'm so sorry. Ko reported I was being overly friendly with a boy and father insisted on meeting you. Relax, Hinata-chan. It could have been worse. He could have ordered you not to see me anymore. At least he's waiting to meet me before he passes judgment. Hinata heaved a sigh. I hadn't thought of that. Relax. We'll eat, we'll talk, your dad will be my biggest fan before dessert. Naruto grinned. Hinata chuckled despite herself. Even you aren't that charming, Naruto-kun. Maybe. But no harm in trying, right? Naruto smirked. I wish I had your optimism, Hinata said, but the tension had mostly bled out of her. I'll be optimistic enough for the both of us, Naruto said with gentle reassurance. The bell rang then, and the young couple focused on learning for the next 3 hours. After lunch bell, they went to the cafeteria. They were looking for a place to sit when Chaoji waved from the table they'd had yesterday, Shikamaru beside him. Shrugging, Naruto led Hinata by the hand to what was apparently their table. As they sat, Shino, Kiba and Ino joined them within moments. It appears I've accidentally made a cool kids table, Naruto observed after a bite of his lunch. Or at least a clan kids table, Shikamaru yawned. We're all heirs and heiresses after all. Naruto noticed someone absent and spared a second to use his sensor technique. Why is Sasuke-san eating in an empty classroom instead of here with us? Kiba snorted. He needs a whole room to himself to fit his ego. Shino answered helpfully with to avoid his more fanatical fangirls during the lunch hour. We're not fanatics, Ino pouted. Dust won't take no for an answer, Chaoji observed with his mouth full. So he's rejected all his fangirls' advances. Naruto checked. The date, yes, Hinata spoke up. Naruto hummed. Then my guess is he's either gay or doesn't respect any of his fangirls. Possibly both, who knows. Ino turned fiery eyes on Naruto. Sasuke-kun is not gay. He's just playing hard to get, that's all. You're entitled to your opinion, just as I am, Naruto shrugged. Hinata, finished with her lunch, took a chance and leaned into Naruto's side, her head resting on his shoulder. Naruto just grinned, kissed her hair, and returned to the group conversation. Hinata smiled in bliss as she savored Naruto's strong body heat, hard muscles, and masculine scent. The rest of the school day passed quickly, with a reminder it was a long weekend due to the Kyuubi festival on Monday. Naruto waved Hinata away as she joined her escort before going home to ensure he was his most well-groomed for the formal dinner. At 5:45 p.m., Naruto found himself in his fanciest outfit, a black silk yukata, his hair bound in a tail in front of the gates of the Hyuga clan estate. It was a sprawling collection of buildings dominated by the main house mansion. 2 branch house guards flanked the entrance. State your name and reason for coming, barked the one on the right. Uzumaki Naruto, invited to dinner with Hiashi-sama. I have the invitation here, Naruto said calmly, holding out the card. The one on the left took the card and verified its authenticity. Convinced it was real, he activated the short-range radio he was wearing. Guest whirlpool at entrance. He then gave back the invitation to Naruto wordlessly. After a few minutes of slightly awkward silence, Hinata's escort came out the front door of the mansion. He approached Naruto and, after a small bow, ordered follow me. He then turned and went back towards the massive house. Naruto trailed behind. Ko led him through the palatial residence Hinata called home. They finally arrived in a surprisingly small dining room, probably meant for the clan head's family alone. The only furniture was a low, square dining table and 4 pillows set at each side. Hiashi, Hanabi, and Hinata were already seated, dressed up for a meal with the daimyo. Naruto was glad he'd gone to such lengths to look his best. You're dismissed, Ko, Hinata's father said blandly. The escort bowed and exited, leaving just the 4 of them in the room. Naruto bowed at the waist. Greetings Hiashi-sama, Hanabi-san, Hinata-chan. You honor me by inviting me here. Hiashi looked like he didn't need the Byakugan to see right through people. Please, take a seat, Uzumaki-san. Dinner is about to start. Naruto went to kneel on the pillow. He observed the moods of his 3 dinner companions. Hanabi tried to conceal it, but she seemed fascinated by Naruto like he was some exotic animal she'd never seen before. Hinata's eyes held equal parts affection and worry. Hiashi looked cold as ice, but there wasn't any hostility that Naruto could detect. So Hiashi-sama, does the interrogation start now or does that come after dinner? Naruto asked plainly. A flicker of surprise followed by just a hint of amusement. I plan to wait until we'd at least finished the first course. If it's all the same to you, I'd rather we just get it out of the way, Hiashi-sama, Naruto answered. Very well. Straight to the point. What are your intentions with my daughter? Hiashi asked with all the weight of his station. Naruto was prompt. I intend to make her my wife, the mother of my children, and the happiest girl in Konoha if not the world. Not necessarily in that order. Hanabi's jaw dropped. Hinata blushed but smiled despite herself. And Hiashi actually raised a brow. Bold words, given you've only known each other 3 days. When you know Hiashi-sama. She's the one for me. I'm the one for her. It's that simple, Naruto declared. Very well. But what makes you believe you are worthy of the Hyuga clan heiress? Hiashi countered. 3 reasons. I'm an Uzumaki, a clan just as old and venerable as the Hyuga. I'm the son of the 4th Hokage. And I'm strong enough to defend her from most threats. Naruto could have been discussing the weather, he was so casual. What? Hanabi gasped. Hinata's eyes widened, but she didn't seem overly surprised. Hiashi just narrowed his pupilless eyes. At that moment, a branch house woman with the air of a servant came in with a tray holding 4 bowls of soup. She set them down in front of the diners, bowed, and left without a word. The Ashi said itadakimasu, echoed by the children, and they began to eat. Between sips of the extremely well-made dish, Hiashi commented, I did not expect you to be aware of your heritage. On either side. Self-discovery is a core aspect of life in the Order of the Horned One. Also, the temple master met my parents and saw the resemblance when we first met. I've known for years, Naruto explained. Father, he's really the son of 4th Sama? Hanabi asked in disbelief. Yes, Hanabi, he is, Hiashi said plainly to his younger daughter. His attention refocused on Naruto. I will admit you have an impressive pedigree. But it will take more than that for me to approve a relationship between you and Hinata. What would convince you that I am a suitable future son-in-law? Naruto asked directly. Hiashi narrowed his eyes. You say you're strong enough to protect her. And at the least, you carry yourself like a martial artist. There's only one way to convince me you belong by Hinata's side. Face me in a bout. Done. When and where? Naruto replied without blinking. The Nabi gaped between her father and Naruto before turning to face her older sister. Where the heck did you find this guy, One-E-san? I didn't. He found me, Hinata said with a smile that was just as luminous as Naruto's in its own way. The Ashi glanced at his firstborn. Naruto could have sworn there was just a drop of tenderness in his eyes before it was covered by his usual frigid demeanor. Tonight, after dinner, in the dojo. Very well. The branch house woman came back, taking the empty bowls of soup and replacing them with salads. The next 3 courses consisted of appetizer, entree, and dessert. Naruto managed to keep a line of light-hearted small talk going with the occasional assist from Hinata throughout the meal. After they'd all finished the green tea ice cream, they were served cups of tea, and the conversation continued as they digested their large meal. After half an hour, Hiashi stood, prompting the 3 children to stand as well. Hiashi walked briskly from the private dining room to the mansion's dojo. It was naturally empty at this hour. Hinata and Hanabi sat on the sidelines while Hiashi and Naruto went to face each other on the tatami mats. Any restrictions, Hiashi-sama? Naruto asked. None, though I would request you avoid any jutsu that might bring the mansion crumbling down around us, Hiashi stated. Of course. Minimal collateral damage it is, Naruto nodded in all seriousness. The 2 men bowed and then got into their preferred taijutsu stances. Hiashi activated his Byakugan. Like Kakashi, he was shocked at the amount of chakra Naruto held, but he swiftly suppressed his surprise to focus on showing this suitor after his daughter's hand a lesson. Naruto for his part looked to the side at Hinata and winked. She blushed pretty as a rose. On 3. 1 2 3. Hiashi called before rushing forward. As clan head of the Hyuga clan, Hiashi was an expert at the gentle fist. His taijutsu skills were easily cage level. Against most 11-year-olds, the battle would have been over within a half dozen hits. But Naruto was not most 11-year-olds. The blonde academy student kept up perfectly with Hiashi, blocking or deflecting every blow, not allowing any of Hiashi's chakra to be injected into his system. As he and his potential father-in-law traded blows, 4 shadow clones appeared and dashed for the corners of the mat. They each began to run through hand seals as fast as they could without risk of error. The Ashi saw the clones, but he was too tied up in fending off Naruto's offensive to do anything about them. Soon enough, the clones ended on the last seal of whatever jutsu they were casting. A cube made of a soft blue-green energy sprung into being around the 2 combatants. In a flash of yellow light, Naruto vanished from right in front of Hiashi to a few strides back. Hiashi's eyes widened as he realized just what he was dealing with. The Flying Thunder God Jutsu. Not exactly, Naruto corrected. Just as Dad improved on the second Hokage's original formula, I've taken the Flying Thunder God Jutsu a step further. Naruto held out his arms as if to indicate the geometric shape they found themselves in. Behold, ceiling art. Room. In this cube, I can teleport to any point within its boundaries. In this space, I am everywhere and nowhere. In this area I am God. The Ashi swallowed as he felt a chill run down his spine. How to fight an opponent that could vanish before any blow landed, appear anywhere and disappear just as quickly. There was a sinking feeling in his gut as he realized the answer was he couldn't. He stood and hid his hands in the opposite sleeve. Stop. I am convinced. But the thought, the shadow clones popped, taking the cube with them. Naruto cricked his neck, not looking tired at all from a couple minutes of S-rank taijutsu combat or the chakra cost of room. Hiashi could only snort, remembering the irrepressible energy the Uzumaki clan was renowned for. Do you also know how to use the Uzumaki chakra chains? Of course. But I figured using them during our fight would have been a bit excessive, Naruto shrugged. The Ashi shook his head and then turned to regard Hinata and Hanabi. Come over here, Hinata. Hinata got up and walked over, standing next to Naruto at a respectable distance. Naruto reached out to take her hand heedless of propriety, and Hinata gripped his hand tight. Hiashi looked between them, an odd sort of melancholy in his eyes, before it vanished behind a businesslike mask. I will approve this union for the time being. But be aware, Naruto, that the first slight against the Hyuga clan's honor will lead to the termination of this relationship. I understand. I vow to be on my best behavior when seen in public with Hinata-chan, Naruto said. I expect you two to wait until you're at least 15 before getting married, Hiashi declared. That makes it 3 years and 81 days until Hinata's birthday. We can wait that long, Naruto mused aloud. Hinata got an angelic smile at the thought of marrying Naruto. Hiashi almost chuckled before remembering he was going for scary father-in-law. Though I desire grandchildren, I expect them to be legitimate. If your firstborn is born one day sooner than 9 months after the wedding, I will render you sterile, Naruto. In as painful a manner as I can devise. That's what birth control is for, isn't it? Seriously though, we'll wait until our wedding night. Makes it more special, Naruto said with as serious an expression as he could manage, given the topic was sex. Hinata looked in danger of an aneurysm. Then I hope this is the start of a long and fruitful alliance between the Hyuga and Uzumaki clans. Now, Hinata, escort Naruto to the front gate. Hanabi, you're dismissed to your room. Good evening, Naruto. There was just a hint of respect in Hiyashi's tone. Good evening, Hiyashi-sama, Naruto bowed, before prompting Hinata to take him out of there. All told, I think that went well, Naruto said as Hinata led him to the front gate of the Hyuga clan estate. They'd just come from the sparring match Hiyashi had with Naruto after a delicious if tense dinner. Naruto's victory had secured her father's blessing for their nascent relationship, up to and including their future marriage. Better than I dared to hope, Hinata told Naruto as they walked slowly along. I hope you didn't worry too much. I hate it when you worry, Naruto confessed. Hinata shook her head. I knew you wouldn't mess it up. I just never thought you'd actually defeat my father in single combat and secure his blessing for our wedding. Well, some say you don't truly know someone until you fight them. Whatever he saw in me, he must have liked. Sure, who my mom and dad were was a big selling point, too. Hinata turned to smile at Naruto. I thought I saw a resemblance when we first met. But why didn't you tell me you were the son of Namikaze Minato? It never came up. I wasn't out to hide it from you. I'd take out an ad in the paper to let the village know, but I'm afraid I'd end up with fangirls like Sasuke-san, Naruto told his girlfriend, shuddering at the thought of fending off estrogen-fueled masses. Hinata's face became hard as steel. None of those shallow bitches will ever touch you. Naruto grinned. You're sexy when you're possessive, Hinata-chan. And the blushing Hinata was back. They reached the front gate. Naruto turned to face Hinata and gently gripped her chin. Leaning in, he deliberately kissed her left cheek. Hinata went tomato red, but when Naruto let go, she swooped in to plant her own peck on his whisker-marked cheek. Naruto grinned bright enough to light up the whole village. What are your plans for the weekend? Naruto asked as they recovered from their amorous exchange. I have none, other than attending the Kyuubi festival. Oh. That's your birthday too. Are you having a party or anything? Hinata asked, suddenly fretting over whether her beloved was having a celebration of surviving another year. I'll be training tomorrow and Sunday. I'm taking my birthday off, though. If you want, you could come train with me. And I'd very much like it if you'd accompany me to the festival. Don't worry, I'm not one for big birthday parties, Naruto laid out. Done. When will you pick me up? Hinata asked. She'd have agreed if Naruto said he was going for a stroll in the infamous Forest of Death. Let's say 9 AM for the training and 5 PM for the festival. And I'm aware Ko will most likely be shadowing you. I imagine I'm going to get very used to him walking behind us as we do things together, Naruto grinned. He squeezed Hinata's hand once more, savoring the feeling of their energy sensing, and then he let go. Good night, Hinata-chan. Good night, Naruto-kun, Hinata said with a bittersweet smile as Naruto turned and walked back towards his apartment. The next day, bright and ready to take on the day, Naruto returned to the Hyuga clan estate. He was 10 minutes early, but he found Hinata already waiting, Ko looming behind her. Good morning, Hinata-chan, Ko-san, Naruto greeted. Good morning, Naruto-kun, Hinata said with a beautiful smile. Greetings, Uzumaki-san. Which training ground shall we be traveling to? Ko asked no nonsense. 7. A friend of mine regularly books it. Times a Waston. Naruto took Hinata's offered hand and began to lead the trio of Konoha residents to the training grounds. Naruto kept up a constant stream of chatter, Hinata eagerly taking part and Ko reluctantly answering when directly addressed. Eventually they reached Training Ground 7, which contained a stream, forested area, a large clearing, and the memorial stone. Hada Kakashi was leaning against a tree, reading the copy of Icha Icha he'd bought with Anko on Naruto's first day in Konoha. Kakashi looked up and waved. Yo. Hey Naruto. And who might these two Hyuga be? Hey Kakashi. This is Hinata, my girlfriend and intended. And this is Ko, her protection detail, Naruto answered. Kakashi raised his brow. Damn, you work fast kid. You get Hiyashi's okay to marry her already? We had dinner, then a short spar. He was convinced I would be a worthy son-in-law, Naruto said with a shrug. Anyway, you've just been reading the whole time. I actually got here at 4:30 a.m. I'm just taking an hour break to let my breakfast settle before I get back to it. Convenient for us, you and I can discuss how we're going to train together. And no offense to the young lady, but I doubt Hinata will be able to keep up with our training, Kakashi drawled. True enough. Within a blink, there were 7 copies of Uzumaki Naruto in the training ground. Ko barely kept his composure at seeing an academy student use shadow clones. 4 of the clones went off to make their own clones and continue Naruto's current training regimen. One went to sit by a tree and read a book, his job to relax and recover chakra. One bowed gallantly to Hinata and reached to take her hand. Hinata exchanged a look and a nod with the original Naruto before she and Ko followed the clone to an unoccupied area of the suddenly crowded training ground. The real Naruto walked up to Kakashi. So, what do you want to work on today? Kakashi eyed the literal thousands of orange-clad ninja trainees that filled the training ground before refocusing on the one in front of him. I spent the first 4 hours working on physical conditioning. Now I was going to iron out my taijutsu against a shadow clone, but now that you're here, I guess we could just spar. Though I'm not sure how good I'll be against someone who beat Hiashi in hand-to-hand. I didn't beat him. I kept him busy while my clone set up an area of effect jutsu that guaranteed my victory, Naruto corrected. Still, that's not something most people can do, Kakashi countered. You spar with Might Guy and you're worried about going up against me? Naruto questioned with a raised brow. Point taken, Kakashi granted. Well, give me another 10 minutes to finish digesting and we'll get at it. Over with Hinata, Naruto's clone grinned and launched into a lecture. I know you've learned the leaf floating exercise. And you've probably had to do specialized training for the gentle fist with your hands, right? Well, today I'm going to teach you a chakra control exercise that isn't only effective, but damn useful. Turning to a nearby tree, the shadow clone walked up to it and, in defiance of gravity, walked up the side of the tree so that he was horizontal. He paused and turned to look down at Hinata with a teasing smile. Care to join me? Hinata bit her lip. I don't know how. Lucky for you, you have a tool unique to your clan to help. Look at my feet with your Byakugan, Naruto ordered. Hinata made a hand seal to focus and then activated her bloodline limit. The world expanded from a 90-degree field of view to a full 360, except for the small blind spot that was a clan secret in the Hyuga. Color leached from the world, leaving blacks, whites, and grays, except for the azure of chakra. Hinata focused on the shadow clone, making note it had almost as much chakra as her father and knowing it was just a fraction of her future fiancé's chakra stores. Moving past that, she looked at his feet and observed how he was releasing the chakra he focused there to stick to the surface of the tree. She walked up to the same tree, did her best to mold her chakra the same way, and hesitantly placed first one, then both feet on the tree. She didn't fall to the ground. With intense focus on each step, she walked up the tree until she was standing in front of Naruto. On the first try, wow. You've got excellent chakra control, Hinata-chan. He treated her to a massive grin before getting a serious expression. Of course, just managing to stick to the tree is the easy part. How long do you think you can keep this up with your Byakugan active at that? Hinata assessed how much chakra was in her body and calculated how fast it was being expended by the release of chakra from her feet and eyes. I'd say 45 minutes, maybe an hour before I was at risk of chakra exhaustion. That's what I thought. In the temple, we weren't considered to have mastered this until we could stick horizontal for a full 12 hours and then upside down for another 12. And it's not just chakra stores you need to worry about. Our bodies evolved to stand upright. It's going to take time to adjust to alternative positions. You're already feeling a bit of a burn to stay straight, aren't you? Indeed, Naruto-kun, Hinata admitted, feeling the effort of staying what she thought of as up while rotated 90 degrees from her usual orientation. How do I get more chakra? The old-fashioned way, strain your chakra reserves and your body will make more when it recovers. You can also work on increasing your yin and yang energies individually so they combine to make more chakra, like reading educationally or doing physical exercise respectively. Don't worry, we'll get to that. For now, I want you to stick to keeping your Byakugan open and sticking to this tree. Focusing chakra to opposite ends of your body is another chakra control exercise in and of itself, so you're technically doing 2 just standing here. Stay here with me for about 30 minutes, then we'll rest and plan the next part of our training today. Sound good? Okay, Naruto-kun, Hinata nodded. They stood there for a while, Naruto purposely testing Hinata's focus by keeping up a conversation. About a third of the way into the exercise, Hinata's attention was taken by the original Naruto and Kakashi having a no-holds-barred taijutsu match. Her empowered eyes could barely keep pace with the movements of either fighter as they punched, kicked, grappled, and otherwise attempted to beat the other to a pulp. It's like watching the fight between you and father. She gasped. Well, Kakashi is one of the candidates for 5th Hokage according to the talk around town. Ninjutsu is his strong point, but he's also best friends with Konoha's resident Taijutsu master Might Guy. He's not as good as your father, but I'd say he's in the same league as he is. Likewise, my specialty is my Fuinjutsu, but I made sure to hone my martial arts so I could protect those I loved. Since we're both limiting ourselves to just Taijutsu, this might actually be a fairly even match, the shadow clone observed. What are the rules? Hinata asked, entranced by seeing the superhuman fighters move so fast and decisively, as if locked in some dance of violence. No chakra besides reinforcing muscles, no weapons, a pin for 10 seconds counts as a victory, her personal Naruto told her. Oh, and no growing shots. That's just sort of unspoken between allied males. Hinata nodded in understanding. Isn't the height and reach difference a problem for you? She asked, taking the policy that Naruto and his shadow clones counted as a whole, and talking to one was as good as talking to any of them. Boss has been dealing with that problem almost every time he sparred against the other order members back at the temple over the last 6 years. And keep in mind, being smaller means being harder to hit, the clone said with a wink. Hinata spent the rest of her half hour just watching her boyfriend and had a Kakashi spar, asking her shadow clone teacher to clarify something when she got confused. Then Naruto clapped. Right. We've actually run over, but I wanted to let you watch the fight. Byakugan off and walk back to the ground, Hinata-chan. Hinata blinked, not realizing how much time had passed. She cut off her Byakugan, feeling immediate relief. She'd never kept it on for so long without a break before. She returned to the ground. Naruto had jumped to stand near Ko. Let's all sit down for this next part. You too, Ko-san, the blonde instructed. Hinata did so readily, but Ko eyed the shadow clone dubiously before doing the same. While Hinata-chan gets a chance to rest, I'm going to share a secret of the order. In my opinion, it's not much of a secret, it's a basic facet of chakra theory. Yet to our knowledge, we're the only organization in the world that trains this core skill, no hidden village or clan does it. Naruto told them. What is it, Naruto-kun? Hinata asked, a little out of breath as the strain of the tree walking caught up with her. Chakra purity, or in other words, how efficiently your yin and yang energies mix together, the replica revealed. You think it's automatically at 100%? Hell no. Your average civilian is in the 20s or maybe low 30s. Shinobi who do a lot of training with their chakra are naturally higher, but I can state with certainty that I'm the only person in the village with a perfect mixture rate. Naruto crossed his arms. Don't believe me? Look at me with the Byakugan, then look at yourselves and Kakashi. See a difference? Ko activated his eyes and did just that. Hinata had observed the differences while she was sticking to the tree. Your chakra is brighter, has more depth. It's pure, Hinata said. Hence the name, chakra purity, Naruto grinned. And here's the best part. Increasing the mixture rate doesn't just result in more chakra, but better quality chakra. It's a double exponential. So if a person went from, say, 50% to 100%, they'd effectively quadruple their chakra reserves. Amazing. Hinata gushed. Ko was more skeptical. If it's such a simple thing, why is the order the only ones to practice it? Why hasn't any ninja clan in history figured it out for themselves? Moving a boulder is simple, Ko-san. Hard, but simple, Naruto replied. Increasing chakra purity requires you to directly manipulate your yin and yang energies. Most ninja go their whole lives not learning how to control either, let alone both. Ko reluctantly nodded. I see. I take it yin-yang control is taught in the order. When we first start training in chakra, we aren't even taught the leaf floating exercise until we're at 100% purity. The ultimate goal of any order member is to achieve mastery of self. If you can't control your mind or body at the most basic level, you can hardly claim mastery of either, Naruto explained. Now, the first step to making your yin and yang mix better is to make them unmix. I'm going to give a guided meditation on separating your chakra into its composite energies. Ko-san, feel free to participate, Naruto stated. Naruto spent the next 2 hours speaking in a calm, measured pace, as he all but hypnotized Hinata and Ko into feeling their chakra, sinking into it, feeling every flicker of its ethereal fire. Then he explained how, much like an ocean, their chakra was made up of countless drops. 2 kinds of drops, actually. White dots that felt positive and energetic, and black dots that felt negative and calm. With gentle encouragement, Naruto told them how to separate the two, positive to the right, negative to the left. When they had finally completely halved their chakra, he told them to mix them back together, focusing on making sure every drop on each side coalesced together into a whole. At the end, Hinata and Ko opened their eyes. Nothing happened, she said, looking deathly afraid of disappointing Naruto. Hey, relax. Getting things perfect on the first try is a rare occurrence, it took me a good 2 months to get this down. You'll achieve 100% purity one day, I know it. The only way you couldn't is if you stopped trying, Naruto reassured his girlfriend. Ko kept his mouth shut, not admitting that he'd had 0 success as well. He turned to where Naruto and Kakashi were still fighting. I think this is the longest Jujutsu fight I've ever seen in person. You should have seen when Master Feng and Master Konoha battled for leadership of the temple. The audience had to sleep in shifts so we didn't miss anything. They lasted a whole week. I'm not exaggerating, over 168 hours of continuous combat. Naruto recalled. Hinata's jaw dropped. How is that possible? Keep in mind, a master of the Order of the Horned One would be classified as S rank. And that's a master who just earned the title. Over the years, they can develop even further. I don't hesitate to say the Order has produced some of the most powerful people in the history of the world. But since we're pacifists and tend to sequester ourselves in temples, the outside world rarely gets to see our skills in action, Naruto elaborated. Before either Hyuga could ask another question, Kakashi's voice reached them. Secret to Jutsu. 1,000 years of death. They all turned to see Kakashi, who'd maneuvered himself behind Naruto somehow and, before their disbelieving eyes, shoved his 4 index fingers and middle fingers up the original Naruto's ass. It was an infinitely awkward moment. Was that supposed to hurt? Kakashi, you're too old for me and we're both currently in relationships. Kindly get your fingers out my ass before I charge you with sexual assault, Naruto said with a facial expression that could best be summarized as why me? Kakashi, what little of his visible face red as a carnation, blurred away until he was a good 15 feet from Naruto. Why didn't that work on you? That move never fails to send the target flying. Why didn't that work on you? Ko asked past his mixed shock and disgust. The original faced Kakashi as the shadow clone faced Ko. In unison they said, think about this one, do you really want to know? The two adult men suddenly started to look anywhere but at Naruto. Hinata leaned in to whisper to the Naruto assigned to her. Really, why didn't that work on you? The shadow clone blushed. Let's just say that, once we're married, if you ever want to be the giver, I won't mind being the receiver. I've practiced. Once the right synapses fired in Hinata's brain to understand what Naruto was saying, 3 things happened. Steam exploded out her ears, blood spurted from her nose, and she collapsed in a dead faint. Hinata-sama. Ko worried. Relax, Ko-san, Naruto said in a soothing tone. The doppelganger pulled out a handkerchief and wiped the blood off Hinata's face. Then he summoned smelling salts from his storage seals and cracked them open under Hinata's nose. The ammonia and the vapors forced her to gasp, waking her up with its intensity. See, she's fine. The original Naruto called out, I think that's as good an excuse as any to break for lunch. The shadow clones continued to do training in the background, having no need for food. Naruto, Kakashi, Hinata and Ko sat in a square and pulled out their respective bento. So, Kakashi, how are things with Anko-san? Naruto asked after eating a fish cake, a bit ironic given his name's alternate meaning besides Maelstrom. She stayed over every night since you came to the village. And we don't just bump pelvises, we talk and shit too. I think you're right, she and I are extremely compatible, Kakashi said with a smile, his one visible eye closing. Can we not discuss this filth in front of Hinata-sama? Ko said sharply. I'm 11 years old, Ko-san, not 11 months. I know what sex is, Hinata said in deadpan. And I say congratulations to Kakashi-san for finding a partner he enjoys spending time with. I hear you've gotten a dozen noise complaints since the day I came back. You want me to soundproof your apartment? Or might I recommend you and Anko-san try to be quiet during your lovemaking? Naruto suggested. I'll take that offer. Or maybe I'll just invest in a good quality gag, Kakashi mused. If I know Anko-san at all, you'd end up the one wearing that gag, Kakashi, Naruto pointed out flatly. Kakashi scratched the back of his head. You're not wrong, Naruto. You're not wrong. Hinata, despite her bold words to Ko, was indeed feeling a bit scandalized listening to such bawdy talk. Naruto-kun, why isn't your family name Nemekis? Ko furrowed his brow. Wait a minute, that's the family name of 4th Sama. What relevance does that have to Uzumaki-san? I'm his son. What, the blonde spiky hair and blue eyes didn't give me away. Naruto said in fake confusion. While Ko's jaw dislocated so he could drop it as low as his shock demanded, Kakashi shook his head. It really is obvious, the resemblance is so strong. I can't believe none of the civilians figured it out. To answer your question, Hinata-chan, 2 reasons. The first was to hide my identity so I or any other entity that wanted revenge on the 4th Hokage wouldn't come after me. Secondly, the Namekis were an unremarkable civilian family that just happened to produce my dad. The Uzumaki are an ancient ninja clan that's sadly on the verge of dying out. Just as my mom kept her maiden name when she married dad, I carry the Uzumaki name I inherited from my mom because it's the more noteworthy and arguably important family, Naruto told his lady love. So what should I do when we get married? Hinata asked. Whatever you want. It's your name, Hinata-chan, you're the one who has to live with it, Naruto shrugged with a smile. Hyuga Hinata Uzumaki Hinata. If Naruto didn't know better, he'd have sworn Hinata's ghost came out her mouth and flew towards the heavens when she heard his name attached to hers. Hinata shook her head and regained focus. Definitely taking your name, Naruto-kun. Alright. Naruto cast his mind for another lunch topic. If it's not a clan secret or anything, how come there are no kicks or leg moves in the gentle fist? Because the gentle fist is effective enough without such attacks, Ko stated as if reciting from a book of religious doctrine. Hinata frowned. The gentle fist is a very grounded style. Foot and knee moves could leave us unbalanced. Also, the feet are the hardest part of the body to channel chakra. It was decided by the main house centuries ago that we would stick to only our arms and hands when using the gentle fist, she elaborated for Naruto and Kakashi's sake. Okay. I'd argue you're sticking to an outdated method out of pride and a conservative mindset, but I don't want to ruin this meal with an argument. Next question, why not incorporate elemental chakra into the gentle fist? Naruto continued. Ko blinked. I don't know, he admitted. Hinata looked down. Hyuga are forbidden from learning elemental chakra. The idea is that pure chakra is all that's necessary to down our opponents. After the curse seal, it's the second stupidest thing about Hyuga clan rules in my opinion. Hinata-sama. Don't say such things. Ko warned her. She's among friends, what's the big deal? Kakashi asked drolly. Naruto frowned. If the true motivation was to prevent the Byakugan from being stolen, every member of the clan would be marked by a protective seal. It's worth noting the Uchiha clan didn't bother with that. The Hyuga curse seal seems designed to create a privileged elite with an army of slaves who obey on pain of torture and/or death. Ko got a look of resignation. You're completely right, Uzumaki-san. But that's the way it's been for hundreds of years. Then maybe that's long enough to wait before someone shook things up, Naruto said forcefully. Hinata-chan, you're marrying me so you're essentially out of the line of succession. Is there any chance Hiashi-sama or Hanabi-san once she's older could order the end of the curse seal? Not without inciting a riot if not an attempted coup by the rest of the main house, Hinata sighed. Naruto frowned. What if they were backed by the Hokage? Maybe. The dissident members of the clan would keep their mouths shut for fear of treason. But keep in mind that certain members of the main house have used a curse seal for criminal reasons. Those individuals might go down in a blaze of glory rather than face judgment once their victims are freed of the curse seal, Hinata mused. Then that's another reason for me to become Hokage. So I can fix your clan, Hinata-chan, Naruto grinned. She smiled as her heart got all toasty. If anyone can do it, it's you Naruto-kun. They moved on to more mundane topics until they'd all finished eating and for about an hour afterwards. Then Kakashi and the real Naruto walked to an open area of the training ground while a shadow clone stuck with the two Hyuga. Okay. So, we worked on trying to feel your yin and yang earlier. Now we're going to work on making them stronger. First off. Yin training. We're going to stretch your minds with new complicated information. As your understanding of it increases, your yin energy will increase, Naruto said cheerily. What will you be teaching us, Naruto-kun? Hinata asked. And why am I being included in these lessons? Ko asked. Because, Ko-san, you're here and you don't really have to act as a bodyguard here in the heart of Konoha. So you can tag along with Hinata on this winding journey of self-improvement, or you can just stand to the side and look imposing while Hinata does it herself. Your choice, Naruto answered. Ko blushed a tiny bit but then sighed and sat down beside Hinata, looking attentive. Good. Now, Hinata-chan, to answer your question, I will be teaching you my personal specialty. Fuinjutsu, the sealing arts. Or as I like to call it, how to make reality your bitch with just some ink and paper. Naruto grinned wide. Today, we'll start with a simple storage seal. Don't be fooled, this seal may not have much combat potential, but having a hammer space on hand has tremendous utility. Naruto summoned paper, ink, and brushes from his personal storage seals, which was a bit of a case in point. As Naruto coached his students stroke by stroke in the calligraphy that could alter the fabric of space-time, they had ample chances to be distracted as Kakashi and Naruto threw ninjutsu at each other. What are you and Kakashi-san doing? Hinata asked once she finished the latest symbol. A game of catch, basically, except the ball is made of ninjutsu. One of us ends a jutsu at the other, and they either have to dodge or counter it with their own jutsu. With my chakra reserves, I could do this for days. Kakashi is more an efficient assassin than a chakra battery like me, so we should be done within the hour, Naruto told her. Hinata nodded and returned her attention to the lesson. At the end of an hour, Hinata and Ko had produced meticulously copied storage seals, based off Naruto's example. He looked them over and nodded. Perfectly functional. Good job, guys. But I won't move on to the next seal until you can make one in under a minute without mistakes. So take these ones home, stare at them, memorize them, see them in your sleep. As the gods are my witness, if you're going to learn Fuinjutsu you're going to learn it right. Yes, Naruto-kun, Hinata nodded, taking this very seriously. Very well, Uzumaki-san, Ko said, personally thinking the young albeit ridiculously powerful man was taking this sealing thing a bit too seriously. So, you've trained your yin energy and picked up a useful skill. Unfortunately, training your yang is much less comfortable. This is the part that'll leave you sweaty and sore, and not in the good way. Time for Uzumaki Naruto's physical training course. Naruto said, getting a smile that would do Might Guy and his protege Rock Lee proud. On the other side of the training field, Kakashi was panting after the highly taxing ninjutsu match. His trained ears still caught what the shadow clone said and resulted in chills down his spine. Naruto, if and when you meet Guy, promise me you won't ever wear any clothes he gives you. You mean that green unisuit he and his mini-me wear? I don't know, Kakashi, they do seem very slimming, the original Naruto, barely out of breath, said teasingly. Kakashi covered his right eye to hide how he was weeping at the idea of 3 people wearing that crime against fashion. On the off chance Guy became Hokage, he'd probably make the damn thing official uniform. Moving past his little moment, Kakashi stretched. Between that taijutsu and ninjutsu training, I'm wiped. Want to call it an early day? Naruto frowned. No way. How about I fill you up? Then we can have a real spar, everything allowed. Fill me up? Kakashi asked, uncomprehending. Naruto walked up to him and held out his fist. Go ahead. Bump it. Trying to find the punchline, Kakashi touched his fist to Naruto's. In an instant, a surge of raw chakra flooded Kakashi's system, filling him to the brim. It felt like it adapted to Kakashi until it felt the same as his own chakra. In the space of 2 seconds, Kakashi was as full of chakra as he'd been before he started training that morning. Kakashi's jaw dropped. How? Once I reached a level where my peers in the order couldn't keep up with me, I threw myself into learning how to transfer chakra. Now I'm like a waterfall anyone can fill their canteen from. Just takes physical contact. Of course, my chakra stores aren't infinite, just obscenely large. If you wanted me to recharge every shinobi in the village, that would be a tad beyond me for now, Naruto said with a smirk. Kakashi could only shake his head. Then he said, in all seriousness, I want to be your Jonin sensei when you graduate. Naruto blinked. Oh. Sure, that sounds like fun. How do we make that happen? Asked Hokage. Kakashi tilted his head. That's an option, I suppose. I was thinking more you earn your spot on my assigned team. Okay, elaborate, please, Naruto prompted. I always get assigned to Team 7. And Team 7 is always made from the same 3 students. The Shinobi of the Year, the Kunoichi of the Year, and the Dead Last. Naruto grinned as he got what Kakashi was implying. And if, say, I were the dead last, then my teammates would be the 2 best students in my class. Exactly, in theory, Kakashi nodded. In theory, Naruto echoed. Now, I believe someone wanted an all-out spar. Kakashi reminded, reaching up to grab his forehead protector. In that case, I better pull out all the stops. With a dramatic move, Kakashi shifted his headband to reveal his transplanted Sharingan eye. Naruto raised a brow. Then he summoned a very familiar type of kunai and gripped it in his fist. You do realize, of course, this means war, Naruto said as he clutched a tri-pronged kunai with a sealing formula written down the handle. Kakashi was having serious deja vu and heart palpitations. You know the Flying Thunder God Jutsu? Relax, I've only made a dozen kunai with the formula. I can't take on an army like Dad did. I'll be nice and only use this one, since you have the handicap of your Sharingan gulping down your chakra, Naruto grinned. Kakashi settled down and got into his battle stance. Let's get started. By the time the sun touched the horizon, all 4 of the party members were ready to call it a day. At least until Naruto's resting shadow clone popped and filled him with a day's worth of chakra. Then he was perky as a cheerleader. Today was a productive day. Best part about it? We can do even more tomorrow. Not everyone recovers overnight like you do, Naruto, Kakashi panted. It was more than a little humbling for an 11-year-old to beat him in a fight where he went hard as he could short of lethal force. Granted, that 11-year-old was in Uzumaki, a Jinchuriki, and trained by the mysterious Order of the Horn One, but still. Naruto only grinned, then patted his 3 companions on the back, filling them all up with chakra with a touch. True, but the people I like can. Cole looked dumbstruck. You can share your chakra? Naruto-kun, that's supposed to be almost impossible, Hinata said in disbelief. It's really not that hard once you get the trick to it, Naruto waved off. And on that note, I'm leaving. See you here tomorrow, I guess. See ya, Kakashi waved before vanishing in body flicker. Naruto took Hinata's hand and led her out of the training ground back toward the village, Ko following 3 steps behind. At the gate to the Hyuga clan estate, they traded pecks on the cheek before Naruto left for his apartment. He checked in with the research team, made himself some dinner, and meditated until bath time followed by bed. Sunday went similarly to Saturday. Naruto had 2,000 shadow clones training, 1 resting, 1 working with Hinata and Ko, and his real body training with Kakashi. From 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock, the Jonin, Chunin, and 2 academy students strove to better themselves. Then they all parted ways to have dinner and unwind after a long day of training. On Monday, Naruto woke with the dawn and just stared at the ceiling a moment. Happy birthday, Naruto, he said to himself. Then he sat up and closed his eyes. This wasn't for meditation though. This was a different kind of journey inward. Naruto opened his eyes in a large room with darkness for a ceiling. The floor had 2 or 3 inches of water covering it. In front of him was a massive cage, the 2 doors held shut by a piece of paper with arcane symbols written on it. Family meeting. He called out loud enough to echo around the room. In the corner of the room, a bed laid incongruously. Its 2 occupants all but leapt out of the sheets. Naruto. Happy birthday, my baby boy, Dadabane. The fragment of Uzumaki Kushina made whole by Naruto's seal work exclaimed. She wrapped Naruto in a back-cracking hug. You seem more excited about it than I am, Dadabeo, Naruto chuckled as he returned his mother's embrace. Namek is Minato's legacy and his son Seal smiled at his wife and child from the side. Congratulations, son. Please forgive us, your mom and I couldn't get you a gift. I don't need gifts, Dad, Naruto said as his mother finally released. From the darkness behind the doors, the sound of something massive moving came. After a few footfalls, the Kyuubi became visible. What is it, Brad? Patience, Kyuubi-san. The whole family's not here yet, Naruto said to the Biju. Out of the darkness of the hallway behind Naruto, what looked like his identical twin walked up to the group. The only observable difference between Naruto and this lookalike was that his eyes were a red iris with black sclera. Why am I even here? You were supposed to absorb me when you defeated me, not leave me alive to stick around. Yami, if I didn't have a little darkness in my soul, all the light would have no meaning. And your hatred lets you see the world differently. I need that perspective when times get hard to make the right decision, Naruto explained to the personification of all his negative emotions. Yami just sighed. He'd tried and failed to take over his host's body. And Naruto had progressed leaps and bounds since. Any resistance was hopeless. This was his lot in life now. Is high and mighty San coming or what? As if on cue, a flash of light blinded them all. When the spots vanished, a perfectly ordinary-looking brunette in his 20s was standing among them, wearing archaic clothing. Naruto bowed at the waist to the man. Thanks for coming, Asura-sama. Naruto-kun, I always tell you, I'm like your great-great times 100 great-grandpa. You can call me a Jiasen. The second son of Utsutsuki Hagoromo said with an exasperated expression. If you recall, the order practically worships your father. I'm just paying you due respect, Naruto fired back. Anyway, now that we're all here, I want to discuss something. So stop wasting my time and just spit it out already, the Kyuubi grumbled, tapping the floor with a claw. Naruto ignored the giant multi-tailed fox. As you know, I process relative years of information in just one day. Every now and then the random thoughts of a few clones combine into a real brainwave. Yesterday, I had a thought that I crunched on the whole way back home and during my meditation. Don't keep us in suspense, son. We can't read your mind, we only hear what you project to us, Dadabane. What is it? Kushina pressed, impatient as always. Naruto explained his idea. To a man, all the residents of his mind dropped their jaws by the end of it. Naruto nodded. So, now the meat of the matter. Is this the right thing to do? No, Yami said immediately. You're just saying that because he's not planning to use it on you, Asura chided. Well, it wouldn't work for you either, stupid reincarnating ghost thing. Yami shouted. I vote for. Anything to make things a little less crowded in here, Kyuubi chimed in boredly. Kushina was crying. Idiot son. This is supposed to be the day we give you a gift, not the other way around, Dadabane. The best gifts are the ones you give, Mom, Naruto grinned. Minato had a serious expression. While I admit this sounds ideal, I can't help but worry it won't work. So many things could go wrong. Isn't it at least worth a try though, Dadabeo? Naruto countered. The fourth Hokage eventually nodded. I suppose there's no harm in trying. We just need to get third Sama on board. Mom? You in? Naruto asked Iridide. Yes, I'm in, Dadabane. I'd be a fool not to take this chance. The Kunoichi had wiped away her tears and now exuded pure enthusiasm. This will be good for the world. I approve, Asura contributed. Yami scoffed. I hate it, which means it's probably the thing you would usually do anyway. It's unanimous, then, Naruto stated. Then he woke up back in the real world. He got dressed and then left the apartment. Taking to the rooftops for speed, he went for the Hokage tower. 5 minutes later, he let himself into the Hokage's office. The third Hokage was leaning back in his chair with a copy of Icha Icha, while a trio of shadow clones dealt with the paperwork that had accumulated overnight. Bureaucracy never sleeps. It was disturbingly easy to sneak up behind you, Hokage Jiji, Naruto said. I sensed you coming from 6 blocks away and signaled my security to let you pass. If you want to be stealthy, you need to find a way to suppress that massive signature of yours, Hiruzen said, not even looking away from his adult literature. Happy birthday, by the way. Thanks. I'm actually here for a serious reason, though, Naruto said, walking around to face his grandfather figure across his desk. Hiruzen closed his book and tucked it in a pocket. I'm all ears. I have a purely hypothetical, totally unprecedented procedure which has an uncertain probability of even working in the first place. And I need your permission to do it anyway. Consider me intrigued. What is this procedure? What is its purpose? The third asked with interest. Naruto took a deep breath. I might, just might, have a way to bring my parents back from the dead. Not the impure world reanimation jutsu. Genuine resurrection. And I suppose it would work for any other person, it'd just be even harder to arrange. The elderly Saratobi's eyes looked liable to fall out of his head. Then the so-called god of shinobi made his appearance. Anbu, everything you just heard and are about to hear is an S-rank secret. Acknowledge. Yes, Hokage-sama, came two disembodied voices. Explain, in detail, Hiruzen ordered Naruto. The thing this whole experiment hinges on is the blood clone. It's almost never used, that's why almost no one knows about it. It produces a fully corporeal clone of the caster, with all the strength and chakra of the one who made them. There's two catches though. First, ignoring the large even by my standards chakra requirement, each blood clone needs the caster to sacrifice a gallon of blood. Second, they're vegetables. No higher brain functions, Naruto started. Hiruzen frowned. I hate to tell you Naruto, but I don't have a gallon of your mother or your father's blood lying around. But we can visit their graves to get some genetic material. Then I can use a genetic conversion seal to turn donor blood into their blood, Naruto answered. And the brain dead problem? Hiruzen prompted. Mom and dad both left chakra constructs in the seal. I can transfer them into the bodies, like a Yamanaka sending their mind into an opponent's body. In theory, mom and dad wake up in their own bodies as if the last 12 years never happened. Naruto's eyes held unwavering conviction. Hiruzen thought it over and dared to hope. I'll oversee the entire process. Clear. Clear, Naruto agreed easily. The Hokage and the academy student visited the graves of Namikaze Minato and Uzumaki Kushina. Disinterring them with earth release, Naruto carefully scraped some skin cells off the desiccated corpses of his parents into petri dishes. Then he prayed over their bodies before returning them to the earth's embrace. From there, he and Hiruzen went to a private room at the hospital with 2 beds prepared. When the Hokage requested 2 gallons of type B blood, the medics rushed to provide them. Naruto carefully wrote out the 2 genetic conversion seals and, with a burst of activating chakra, used the skin samples to transform the blood into that of his parents. Now comes the hard part, Naruto said to himself. Centering himself, he did a long string of hand seals before dipping his chakra-laced fingers in the bowl of his father's blood. Ninja art. Blood clone jutsu, Naruto said fiercely. Over half of Naruto's reserves were sucked out of him in an instant. But with a puff of smoke, the blood vanished and was replaced by a naked man's body. A man with tan skin and blonde spiky hair. By the sage, it worked. Hiruzen gasped. Keep in mind, this is just an empty shell. It's still uncertain if I can transfer the construct in the seal into this body or that it will grant him control of it, Naruto reminded the elder. Now let me recover a bit before I make the clone for mom. Naruto meditated to speed up his chakra recovery. When he was at about 3/4 full, he stood up and repeated the blood clone jutsu using his mother's blood. He almost collapsed from exhaustion, Hiruzen rushing to steady him. Fool. You're pushing yourself too hard. We don't have to do this all at once. Take the rest of the day to rest and we'll finish tomorrow. I finish what I start, Hokage Jiji. There's only one step left, Naruto panted. Walking to the bedside of his father, Naruto placed his palm on the blood clone's forehead. Those sensitive to chakra would have distinctly felt Minato's energy signature within Naruto's shift between the 2 bodies. Naruto walked over to his mom's blood cone and repeated the process. Please work, Naruto muttered under his breath. For a minute, it seemed like the transfer had failed to animate either body. Then Minato's brow furrowed and he opened his eyes. He blinked up at the ceiling and then sat up. He looked at Naruto and Hiruzen incredulously. Am I alive again? The 4th Hokage asked in disbelief. Well, you're a chakra construct puppeteering a blood clone. In other words, a mind controlling a body of flesh and bone. Sounds like life to me, Dadabeo, Naruto grinned. Kushina woke up explosively. Did it work? It worked, right? She asked, not looking directly at any of them. Looks like it, Mom, Naruto told her. Oh yeah? Uzumaki Kushina, round 2, Databane. Kushina roared to the heavens. Hiruzen coughed delicately. Minato-kun, Kushina-chan, you're both naked. And so the 2 newly resurrected ninja almost died as soon as they were born from embarrassment. Once Naruto's parents were dressed in some hastily fetched clothes, they, Naruto, and Hiruzen sat down together to iron out the specifics of how to reintroduce the 2 revenants. What's wrong with just announcing it today? Kushina whined. Never underestimate the power of a dramatic entrance. The return of the yellow flash should be witnessed by people from around the world in order to maximize the impact and frighten our enemies before they even think to strike, Hiruzen explained. I'm thinking the Chunin exams. But we should do this on home turf. When's the next time Konoha hosts them? Minato asked. About 9 months from now, Naruto said. His daily data dump from the library shadow clone had filled him with useful trivia. Kushina sighed. 9 months undercover until we're allowed to show ourselves. Well, mostly Minato-kun but still, databang. I can fashion some seal-based ninjutsu to hide your appearance, Naruto volunteered. You've done enough for one day, son. Your mom and I can handle that part, Minato said, placing a hand on Naruto's shoulder. Yeah, go get a nap or something, databang. You don't want to be exhausted when you take Hinata out to the festival, Kushina said warmly. Naruto was about to protest when he yawned. I think I'll do just that, Mom. Mom, Dad, Hokage, see you later. When Naruto had closed the door behind him, Hiruzen pulled out his pipe. Tell it to me straight, Minato-kun. How strong is he? You've lived in his head for years, you must have a general idea. In terms of sheer destructive potential, he's stronger than the three of us combined when he goes all out. And that's without even touching the Kyuubi's chakra, Minato said frankly. His weakness is his innocence. He believes the best of people. He's never looked into the abyss and have it stare right back at him. He's never had to pick the lesser of two evils. He could become the greatest shinobi to ever live or the most terrifying threat the world's ever known. One way or another, we'll all find out. Hiruzen mulled that over as he puffed smoke. Kushina had a small smile on her face. Then it's our job to keep him on the right path. When he stumbles, we and his other precious people will be there to catch him before he falls, databang. The trio of shinobi sat there in the hospital room and pondered the impact one Uzumaki Naruto could have on the world.